Chapter 35. Phew, that's good. The servant let out a sigh of relief. His master was too fickle. Who knew what he was thinking? Jingyu walked as she asked Xing-yi, "Who is that man who looks like a smiling tiger?" Interrogation Officer 1 was slightly taken aback when he heard this. Only then did he realize that Jingyu was talking about Fang Zicheng, and a smile appeared in his eyes. A smiling tiger. This description was too apparent. He is the only son of Grand Secretary Fang Zicheng. He is also one of Master's rare friends, Xingyi said. This kind of person is obviously a backstabber. Only Xiaochen would have this kind of taste to be friends with him. Jingyu sighed repeatedly. Xingyi's expression stiffened. Was this a compliment or a derogatory one? Jingyu returned to the lotus garden. Seeing that Yin Jian and Yin Feng had been fed sobering medicine, she let out a sigh of relief. She couldn't help but wonder if she should chain these two wolves the next time she went out. They were too disobedient. They actually got drunk. Xing-yi returned to Xiaochen's side and reported everything that Jingyu had done today to Xiaochen. When he heard that Yin Jian and Yin Feng had secretly gotten drunk, Xiaochen's expression was slightly strange. He thought that something big had happened and he had to pack up. He didn't think that these two wolves would get drunk themselves. What is the imperial concubine doing now? Xiaochen's face was slightly pale as he asked with narrowed eyes. The imperial concubine has already fallen asleep, Xingyi said. Xiaochen nodded and didn't ask any more questions. He waved his hand to dismiss Xing. Xing-yi hesitated for a moment before looking at Xiaochen and saying, "Master, it's almost the 9th day of the lunar month. Your body, it's fine. The medicine will be delivered on the 10th day of the lunar month." "It's just one more day," Xiaochen said with his eyes slightly closed. "Yes." Xing-yi lowered his head. His eyes were full of seriousness as he turned and slowly left. In the lotus garden, Jingyu was sleeping soundly. Her sleeping posture was not beautiful at all. After living in the forest for a long time, Jingyu had a natural sensitivity. In this dark night, even the slightest movement of the wind could wake the sleeping Jingyu. "Who is it?" Jingyu's eyes suddenly opened. In the pitch-black room, Jingyu's eyes suddenly flashed with a green light before returning to their original pitch-black state. The person outside the curtain paused slightly. He stood on the spot and said, "It's me, Xiaochen?" Jingyu lifted the bed curtain and saw Xiaochen standing not far away in black. She blankly blinked her eyes and asked with a frown, "Why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? Why are you here pretending to be a ghost to scare people?" When Jingyu saw that it was Xiaochen, she immediately dropped the vigilance in her heart. She lowered her head dejectedly and angrily looked at Xiaochen. "I'm not here to sleep." Xiaochen gracefully walked to the bedside. Jingyu hurriedly reached out her hand to stop Xiaochen from moving forward. She looked at Xiaochen in disbelief and said, "Hey, we agreed that you are not to touch me." "Who agreed with you?" Xiaochen grabbed Jingyu's hand and flipped over to lie on the bed. He held Jingyu in his arms. That posture made Jingyu angry. How could this damned man be so strong? You didn't keep your word." Jingyu wanted to cry but had no tears. Her hand hurt so much that she couldn't break free. "It's good that you know." Xiaochen's words seemed to carry a hint of tiredness. He slowly loosened his grip on Jingyu's hand. As soon as Jingyu relaxed her hand, her elbow immediately attacked Xiaochen's chin. Xiaochen's face turned cold. He flipped over again and suppressed Jingyu. Chapter 36. If you want to sleep like this until daybreak, then move a little more. "I don't mind removing one of your hands," Xiaochen said coldly as he pressed down on Jingyu's wriggling body. "Damn it, you're sleeping in my bed and you're preparing for me to resist. Who set this stupid rule?" Jingyu was instantly enraged as she spoke through gritted teeth. "First of all, this is my bed. The entire residence is mine." Xiaochen smiled coldly as he looked at Jingyu and said, "If you want to resist, then you need to have the ability. Why ask for trouble?" Jingyu was stunned. Then she buried her face in the blankets and wailed. What kind of sin did she commit? "Let go." Jingyu broke free from Xiaochen and accepted her fate. She hugged the blankets and rolled to the side, giving up the spot beside her to Xiaochen. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's small body and his lips curled into a satisfied smile. That night, Jing Yu fell asleep with a heart full of hidden bitterness and curses. When she woke up, there was no one beside her. There were only the marks of being slept on. Jing Yu stretched lazily. When she didn't see Xiao Chen when she woke up, her mood instantly lightened. Imperial Consort, you're awake? Imperial Uncle ordered for breakfast to be brought over now? Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu wake up and immediately asked from outside the screen. At least he has some conscience. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and lifted the curtain. Yin Xiao walked in, her face still red from embarrassment. Jing Yu was slightly stunned. What was Yin Xiao doing? Why was she blushing so early in the morning? This servant will help you wash up. Yin Xiao didn't dare to walk towards the bed. Instead, she first combed Jing Yu's hair. Hey, don't misunderstand. We didn't do anything last night. Jing Yu saw that Yin Xiao didn't even dare to raise her head and instantly understood. She hurriedly explained. This servant didn't think? Yin Xiao's face became even redder. Jing Yu helplessly covered her face. Forget it, she didn't want to explain. With her body, if Xiao Chen really wanted to do it, then she really had nothing to say. Jing Yu lowered her head and let Jing Yu comb her hair. Because of the previous example, Jing Yu specially told Yin Xiao to have her hair in a simple bun. Since she hadn't entered the palace, she naturally didn't enter the palace. Jing Yu didn't receive the imperial edict. Because? Jing Yu's eyes widened. She stared at Xiao Chen and asked, You want me to go to the academy to learn the rules and etiquette of the palace? Jing Yu looked like she was struck by lightning. She stared in disbelief at Xiao Chen, who was leisurely sipping his tea. Xiao Chen raised his hand and pushed the imperial edict on the table forward. Jing Yu picked up the imperial edict and read the contents. The more she read, the angrier she got. This emperor's head must have been hit by a door. Who wants to go and learn those troublesome etiquette? Jing Yu stood up angrily and threw the imperial edict away. She stared at Xiao Chen angrily and said, I'm not going. I want to go back to Roman Forest. This matter isn't up to you. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Jing Yu. Jing Yu was about to go crazy. Who was the one who said that the ancient era didn't need to go to school? Looking at you, you really do need to learn the rules and etiquette of the palace. Xiao Chen put down the teacup and stood up. Tomorrow morning, I'll send you to the academy. I'll bring you back half the time. Chapter 37. Really want to go? Jing Yu blinked her eyes, then looked at Xiao Chen and asked. Xiao Chen faintly glanced at Jing Yu, then turned and left without saying a word, leaving Jing Yu in the same place. Yin Xiao couldn't stand it anymore, so she comforted her in a low voice. Imperial concubine, it's a good thing to be able to study in the Imperial College. You can get to know a lot of young misses. Good my ass. If I find out who made me go to the Imperial College to study etiquette, I will peel off her skin. Jing Yu said with red eyes. Aya Imperial concubine, lower your voice. Yin Xiao was so scared that her face turned pale. She hurriedly pulled Jing Yu and said, This imperial edict was sent by the Empress Dowager to the Emperor. Imperial concubine, aren't you insulting the Empress Dowager? This is a big crime, you will be beheaded. Empress Dowager? Jing Yu slightly froze, then she frowned and had a strange look on her face. Yes, Imperial concubine Yang Yang and Empress Dowager have always been close. The 9th Imperial Uncle's consort selection is a big matter. Only Imperial concubine Yang Yang has seen Imperial concubine Yang Yang before. It must be Imperial concubine Yang Yang who whispered into Empress Dowager's ears. I was wondering why the Empress Dowager would give an imperial edict for no reason. It turned out that it was that woman's doing. I didn't go to provoke her, but she actually came to provoke me. Jing Yu's face sank. She coldly sat on the side and said, Isn't it just learning etiquette? I want to see what kind of tricks she wants to play. Jing Yu was sent to the so-called Imperial College by Xiao Chen early in the morning. There were all kinds of carriages parked outside the gate. When they saw a black carriage slowly coming, everyone's face changed. The shining symbol on the carriage was Xiao Wangfa symbol. Oh God, why did the 9th emperors come here? Is the rumor true? The 9th imperial concubine is going to attend the etiquette class with us? No way. The 9 emperors are personally seeing him off. Jingyu sat in the carriage with a dark face. As soon as the carriage came to a stop, she could hear waves of discussion outside. Jingyu sneered at Xiao Chen and said, "It seems like you are really popular." Xiao Chen silently glanced at Jingyu and stepped down from the carriage. When his handsome face appeared, all the young ladies outside held their hands nervously and stared at Xiao Chen with fiery gazes that gave Jingyu goosebumps. "I'll pick you up tonight." Xiao Chen raised his hand and tidied up Jingyu's hair. His gentle action immediately made the eyes of all the women around him turn red with jealousy. Who was the one who said that the 9th imperial concubine would die? Look at her, she was still alive and kicking. "Yin Xiao, did you notice that those people seem to want to swallow us alive?" Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's carriage. She turned around and was stared at by countless eyes. Instantly, her hair stood on end. "Imperial concubine, the person they want to swallow is you, not this servant." Yin Xiao suppressed her laughter and said to Jingyu, "Not bad. You have only been with me for a few days and you dare to make fun of me." Jingyu pretended to be angry and turned to glare at Yin Xiao. Yin Xiao quickly lowered her head and said, "This servant deserves to die. This servant is only speaking the truth. Don't you know that people who speak the truth don't live long?" Jingyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Heh." Yin Xiao was about to reply when she was interrupted by a surprised greeting from beside her. Jingyu turned her head in confusion. There was someone here who recognized her? When Jingyu turned her head, she realized who it was. It was Shangguan Linglong, whom she met on the street last time. Chapter 38. It's really you? Shangguan Linglong walked up and looked at Jingyu from head to toe. "You don't even know if it's me and you're already greeting me? How bold." Jingyu raised her eyebrows and looked at Shangguan Linglong. I thought you would come to school on your wolf." Shangguan Linglong was stunned for a moment and then laughed out loud. He found Jingyu more and more pleasing to the eye. Those two guys were drunk and are still in a daze. Jingyu rubbed her forehead helplessly and said, "You're also studying here?" "Yes, we'll be classmates from now on." Shangguan Linglong looked at Jingyu with a smile and said, "My name is Shangguan Linglong. If you have any questions in the future, you can ask me. This school isn't safe. You'll definitely be bullied if you don't have any background. If anyone dares to touch you, you can tell me." Jingyu looked at Shangguan Linglong in surprise. That look of "I'll protect you" greatly improved Jingyu's impression of him. She nodded with a smile and said, "I will." "Let's go." Shangguan Linglong was just about to bring Jingyu into the school when he saw Jing Yan walking towards them. "The 9th imperial concubine is also here to learn etiquette? We'll be classmates from now on," Jing Yan said with a smile as she looked at Jingyu. "Yes, we'll be studying together from now on." Jingyu laughed dryly and said to Shangguan Linglong, "Let's go in." Jingyu completely ignored Jing Yan's goodwill and brought Shangguan Linglong into the school. Shangguan Linglong was slightly stunned and gave Jingyu a thumbs up. She actually ignored Jing Yan just like that. How arrogant! What's the background of that girl? Jingyu didn't know why, but she inexplicably felt that Jing Yan was too fake. She didn't have a good impression of her. "You don't know?" Shangguan Linglong heard Jingyu's question and suddenly widened his eyes as he looked at Jingyu. "Should I know?" Jingyu blinked her eyes and asked with a confused expression. "She's the young miss of the Prime Minister's residence. Her name is Jing Yan." Shangguan Linglong. Prime Minister's residence? 2. Today's first lesson. The instructors were 3 nannies specially invited by the palace. They were not soft-hearted at all. They beat and scolded those who needed to be taught. In the eyes of these nannies, there was no family background. At least, that was what they appeared to be. Not bad. This standing posture was not difficult for Jingyu, who used to stand in a military posture. Mother Yun, the leader, looked at Jingyu's motionless standing posture and nodded with satisfaction. Mother Yun, who rarely praised others, actually praised her. Suddenly, everyone could not stay calm. Jing Yan's eyes flashed with anger. This girl had only been at the academy for 1 day and had already stolen her limelight. She was obviously a wild girl with no family background. She relied only on her identity as the 9th imperial concubine. How could she compete with her? The more Jing Yan thought about it, the angrier she became. Her heart was heaving up and down. She couldn't stand steadily and began to sway. Jing Yan, what's wrong with you today? Mother Yun frowned and looked at Jing Yan. Jing Yan was usually the best among these girls. Why did she make so many mistakes today? Chapter 39. I know I was wrong. I don't feel well today. Jing Yan's face turned pale. She pretended to be delicate and bowed to Mother Yun. Don't come if you don't feel well. I didn't come here to see you like this. Mother Yun's face turned cold. She was not moved by Jing Yan's words. She waved her hand and the two nannies beside her were about to help Jing Yan out of the school. Mother Yun, please forgive me. I can still stand. Seeing the two nannies' actions, Jing Yan was shocked. She stood up straight to show that she was fine. If she was sent out of the school halfway, it would bring shame to her family. Mother Yun glanced at Jing Yan indifferently and waved her hand to continue. She stood for the whole morning. Everyone was wobbling. Only Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglong looked normal. Mother Yun looked at Jing Yu in surprise. You are Jing Yu, right? Mother Yun waved her hand to ask them to rest. She turned to look at Jing Yu and asked, Yes, I am. Jing Yu blinked and nodded. Good. You are a beautiful piece of jade. Mother Yun praised her again and stood up to leave, leaving Jing Yu confused. Jing Yu, you are amazing. How did you do it? Shangguan Linglong asked, holding Jing Yu's hand with sweat on his forehead. His eyes were full of amazement. You are not bad either. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and looked at Shangguan Linglong. I grew up in the army. It's nothing for me to stand here. Shangguan Linglong pulled Jing Yu to a stone chair and sat down. She said happily, You didn't see Jing Yan's expression just now. It was almost dripping ink. You didn't even steal her limelight. So what? Jing Yu raised her chin proudly and said, She dares to hit me. Ha! I like your temper. Shangguan Linglong looked at Jing Yu and laughed out loud. Are you the 9th imperial concubine? While Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglong were chatting happily, another voice interrupted. Jing Yu looked sideways and saw a girl in light green looking at Jing Yu nervously. I am. And you are? Jing Yu blinked and found that she had no impression of this beautiful girl in front of her. My name is Ning Xiangyuan. I've heard about you a long time ago. Now that I've met you, you are indeed as amazing as the rumors say. Ning Xiangyuan looked at Jing Yu excitedly with a look of worship. Jing Yu was slightly stunned and quickly waved her hand. It's just a rumor. Ning Xiangyuan hesitated and lowered her body to look at Jing Yu. You just offended Jing Yan. She will definitely secretly make things difficult for you. You have to be careful. Just as Ning Xiangyuan finished speaking, a sharp voice sounded. Oh, isn't this the future 9th imperial concubine? Why didn't you say hello to everyone? The woman in the lead was wearing a purple robe. She raised her chin and looked at Jing Yu. Countess Xiling, the daughter of the eldest princess. She has always been good friends with Jing Yan, Shangguan Linglong quickly said to Jing Yu. So it's the famous Countess Xiling. I heard from the 9th emperors that you are gentle, generous, and kind. Jing Yu smiled and politely bowed to Xiling. Really? Xiling was slightly shocked and her eyes flashed with surprise. She probably didn't expect Xiao Chen to mention her. Chapter 40. Of course it's true. How could it be false? Jing Yu smiled and looked at Violet Spirit. Seeing Princess Xiling today, it is indeed true. The 9th emperors also said that Jing Yu and Princess Xiling should get along well at the school. Hearing this, Violet Spirit paused in surprise. She walked toward Jing Yu as if she wanted to have a good chat with Jing Yu. Jing Yan, who was behind Violet Spirit, was stunned by this turn of events. She didn't come back to her senses for a while. Shouldn't Princess Xiling be looking for trouble with Jing Yu? How come she was sitting at the same table as Jing Yu in the blink of an eye? Princess Xiling. Jing Yan's expression was a bit ugly. Seeing Princess Xiling sit down, she bit her lip and called out. Oh. Xiling was talking to Jing Yu when she suddenly heard Jing Yan's voice from behind her. She turned her head in confusion and when she saw Jing Yan's dry smile, she paused for a moment before she seemed to have thought of something. She pulled Jing Yan over and said, This is the young lady of the Prime Minister's residence, Jing Yan. Miss Jing Yan, we have met before. Jing Yu looked at Jing Yan, who didn't have a good expression, and raised her eyebrows. Jing Yan's heart skipped a beat. She then revealed a friendly smile and nodded at Jing Yu. Speaking of which, we are really fated. The royal concubine's surname is also Jing. What is your name? Miss Jing Yan, please don't mind me. I just casually used a name. I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Jing Yu laughed out loud. Her complacent look didn't make anyone notice anything strange. Now that you mention it, I remember that you two have the same surname. Violet Spirit blinked and looked at Jing Yu and then at Jing Yan. People who don't know would think that you two are sisters. It really is fate. Princess Xiling, you must be joking. I grew up without parents, so how could I have sisters? Jing Yu looked at Jing Yan indifferently and said these words without any trace of politeness. This caused Jing Yan, who originally wanted to use these words to strike up a conversation with Jing Yu, to stiffen slightly. Today's study was nothing more than standing. Jing Yu was in the limelight. Not only did she steal Jing Yan's limelight, but she was also on good terms with Princess Xiling. The two sat opposite each other. No one knew what they said, but Princess Xiling was elated. After saying that, Violet Spirit left happily, leaving Shangguan Linglan and Ning Xiangyuan dumbfounded. They thought that Princess Violet Spirit was here to cause trouble, but who would have thought that the result would be the same? Jing Yu. Xiling. Did the 9th Emperors really say that Princess Xiling is that good? Shangguan Linglan watched Princess Xiling leave with a face full of smiles. He turned his head and asked Jing Yu in a daze. Of course, it's all fake. Jing Yu impolitely rolled her eyes. The speed at which she changed her expression and the words she spat out made the two people's eyes widen even more. What? Shangguan Linglan almost screamed out loud. He quickly lowered his voice and looked at Jing Yu. How can you say that it's all fake so confidently? Aren't you afraid that Princess Xiling will find out the truth? You'll have to face the consequences. I'm too lazy to confront her directly. Xiao Chen told me not to cause trouble for him. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows indifferently and said, if she really doesn't know what's good for her and comes up to me to beat her up, I don't mind doing it. Isn't it just because she has the support of the eldest princess? Chapter 41. Shangguan Linglan looked at Jing Yu in astonishment. This was the first time he felt his heart crumble. Everyone said that Shangguan Linglan was arrogant, but look, the real arrogant person was here. When the class ended, it was already evening. Everyone left. Just as they reached the entrance, they saw the 9th Emperor's pitch-black carriage parked at the entrance. Everyone was astonished. The 9th Emperors actually came personally to pick up Jing Yu. Jing Yu followed Shangguan Linglan out. Before she reached the entrance, she heard the cries of surprise. Her brows twitched as a strange feeling flashed through her heart. Please don't drive that pitch-black carriage to pick her up. It's really ugly. It's like a moving piece of charcoal, Jing Yu muttered in her heart as she stepped out of the door. She was stunned to see Xiao Chen standing beside the charcoal. Oh no, standing beside the carriage. She rolled her eyes. How much does this man like the color black? It's fine if you wear black clothes, but you even drive a carriage in black. Xiao Chen, I have to say something. Jing Yu stood beside Xiao Chen and looked up at Xiao Chen with a serious expression. Xiao Chen's expression was cold. The way he narrowed his eyes at Jing Yu was as if he was looking at someone else. There wasn't a trace of warmth in his eyes. The next time you drive that carriage here, I'll burn it down. Jing Yu gritted her teeth as she glared at the pitch-black carriage in front of her and said fiercely, Go ahead and burn it. Xiao Chen indifferently glanced at Jing Yu and stepped onto the carriage. His voice was faint as he said, This carriage is made of black iron. It's impervious to fire and water. What? Jing Yu was stunned as she stared at the black iron carriage in front of her. She wanted to cry but had no tears. Wasn't it just a shabby carriage? Was there a need to make such a big scene? Don't get on. This king is leaving. Xiao Chen's cold words were heard. Jing Yu immediately scrambled onto the carriage. Not to mention how far it was to walk back to the prince's mansion, Jing Yu really didn't know the way. Thus, she obediently sat in the carriage. Why don't you ask what happened today? Jing Yu blinked as she looked at Xiao Chen. She had used Xiao Chen's name to do bad things. It probably counted as bad things. What? Xiao opened his eyes and calmly looked at Jing Yu. And asked you, how did you steal the limelight today? Did you beat everyone? Or, using this king's name? Ahem. I wasn't spouting nonsense. Jing Yu choked on Xiao Chen's words and coughed. She said seriously, I was speaking the truth. However, it's a truth that will never be realized. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Jing Yu's serious expression. The corners of his lips moved slightly and he closed his eyes, ignoring her. Hey, you can't ignore me like this. Get up and let's talk about the carriage. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen, who had closed his eyes again and was instantly unhappy. Was this guy really that sleepy? Why was he always sleeping? Such a dark and swarthy carriage. What were you thinking to bring it onto the streets? Jing Yu complained. It's really ugly, don't you think? Jing Yu continued. Also, get out. Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes and stared coldly at Jing Yu. There was a cold aura mixed with a biting pressure. Jing Yu's words were immediately blocked. Chapter 42. Jing Yu was slightly angered. She opened her mouth to speak, but Xiao Chen suddenly grabbed her by the collar and threw her out of the carriage without any pity. Xing Yi and Xing Er stared at Jing Yu, who had fallen to the ground, dumbfounded. They didn't dare to say a word. Let's go. Xiao Chen's low and icy voice sounded from within the carriage. Xing Yi trembled and hurriedly urged his horse to leave. Only Jing Yu, who had fallen to the ground, was left on the bustling street. The surrounding people immediately started pointing and gossiping. Who was thrown out by the 9th Emperors? Could it be another shameless girl who wants to seduce the 9th Emperors? I think so. Girls nowadays are all like this. A toad lusting after a swan. She actually wants to seduce the 9th Emperors. That's right. Jing Yu's face instantly flushed red when she heard the gossips. That damned Xiao Chen. Shut up. Jing Yu was even angrier when she heard the gossips. She was still fuming after being thrown out of the carriage for no apparent reason. She's even angry from embarrassment. The gossips instantly grew louder. Isn't this Jing Yu? Just as Jing Yu clenched her fists to suppress the anger in her heart, another gentle and clear voice sounded. Jing Yu turned to look and saw Jing Yan, who was walking over with a servant girl. Her eyes were filled with mockery. Why you here? Jing Yan glanced at Jing Yu from the corner of her eyes and said, Were you the one they said was thrown out of the carriage by the 9th Emperors? What does that have to do with you? Jing Yu snorted coldly as she spoke. They even said that the 9th Emperors treated you so well. It seems like it was just a momentary interest. He threw you away after he got tired of playing with you. Jing Yan covered her mouth and smiled. Her slender and elegant appearance immediately made the surrounding people exclaim in amazement. It's better than someone who can't even sit in the 9th Emperor's carriage. Jing Yu crossed her arms and looked at Jing Yan from the corner of her eyes. Jing Yan's expression turned angry, but she quickly suppressed it. She smiled and looked at Jing Yu and said, I don't know what Princess Xiling will think when I tell her what happened today. Everything you said today was just to tease her. Jing Yu rolled her eyes. She couldn't be bothered with Jing Yan and turned to leave. Jing Yu, you will regret this. Jing Yan shouted angrily when she saw Jing Yu ignoring her. Is there something wrong with this woman's brain? Jing Yu sneered and walked forward. Looking at the unfamiliar and bustling street, the anger in her heart slowly leaked out. Then she suppressed it bit by bit. When had she, Jing Yu, ever been wronged like this? Xiao Chen, you better remember this. Isn't this the 9th Imperial concubine? Just as Jing Yu was trying to recognize the road, she suddenly heard a cry of surprise. Immediately, Jing Yu's face darkened. Could it be that her face was really that familiar? She could be recognized just by casually walking on the road? Jing Yu didn't turn around. She continued to walk forward with large strides as if she didn't hear anything. 9th Imperial concubine, I'm calling out to you. The voice behind her was getting closer and closer. Jing Yu continued to walk without looking back until she felt a hand on Jing Yu's shoulder. Immediately, Jing Yu became angry. She grabbed the hand and twisted it. Suddenly, a scream of pain sounded. Ah! Ow ow ow! Jing Yu angrily stared at the man with a twisted face in front of her. She angrily scolded, "Fang Zicheng, are you a pig? Can't you see that I'm ignoring you? What are you doing here?" Chapter 43. Let go of my hand first. Fang Zicheng's body stiffened and he didn't dare to move an inch. He was afraid that Jing Yu would twist his hand again and break it. Jing Yu glared at Fang Zicheng and finally let go of his hand after pushing him away. She glared at this man with a look of disgust. "It hurt so much. You hit me too hard." Fang Zicheng looked at his wrist that was slightly swollen because of Jing Yu's strength and suddenly looked like he was about to cry. "You asked for it." Jing Yu curled her lips indifferently. Looking at Fang Zicheng's appearance, she suddenly frowned and said, "Can't you act like a man? Isn't it just a little swollen? Let me try twisting it." Fang Zicheng's face darkened. He was actually being despised like a woman? "I'm not stupid. Why would I let you twist it?" Jing Yu rolled her eyes and turned around to leave. Fang Zicheng hurriedly followed her. While rubbing his wrist, he looked sideways at Jing Yu and said, "Why are you here? I didn't see you bring any guards with you." Of all people, he touched a sore spot. "What does it have to do with you?" "Miss, it's my pleasure." Jing Yu continued to walk aimlessly. "Where are you going?" "The prince's mansion is over there." Fang Zicheng watched as Jing Yu walked further and further away. If she continued walking like this, she would reach the city gate. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Jing Yu suddenly turned around and fiercely glared at Fang Zicheng. "So you're going back to the prince's mansion?" Fang Zicheng's face suddenly revealed a smile, as if he finally knew what she was going to do. Jing Yu suddenly stopped and looked at Fang Zicheng from head to toe. Her stare made Fang Zicheng's hair stand on end and he quietly took a step back. He completely didn't know what Jing Yu wanted to do. "Did you bring money?" Jing Yu asked and immediately felt embarrassed. Fang Zicheng was stunned. Before he could understand what Jing Yu meant, he saw Jing Yu touching him all over. She said, "You must have brought something. I'm starving. Give me money. I want to eat." Fang Zicheng trembled from Jing Yu's touch. He hurriedly stopped Jing Yu from continuing to touch him. He jumped away with a red face and said, "I'll give it to you. Hurry up. Don't dilly-dally." Jing Yu glared at Fang Zicheng, as if she would strip him naked if he didn't take it out. When Jing Yu and Fang Zicheng sat in the restaurant, Fang Zicheng finally understood what she meant when she said that they were about to starve to death. Everyone in the restaurant was staring at their table, which made Fang Zicheng want to find a hole to hide in. Fang Zicheng swore to the heavens that he had never been looked at like this in his entire life. "Are you full?" Fang Zicheng braced himself and looked at the many empty bowls across from him. The girl was drinking and eating without a care for her image. Her bold and unrestrained actions didn't make her look like a woman at all. "I'm full." Jing Yu elegantly sucked her greasy fingers clean and picked up a handkerchief to wipe her mouth. She looked at Fang Zicheng with a satisfied expression and said, "Your appetite is really good." The corner of Fang Zicheng's mouth faintly twitched. He looked at the messy table in front of him and decisively called the waiter over to bring them another table. He sat down again and looked at Jing Yu's narrowed eyes as she chewed on a toothpick and picked her teeth. The way she crossed her legs and the way she picked her teeth simply didn't match her beautiful face at all. Chapter 44. Seeing Jing Yu pick her teeth with a toothpick in her mouth, the way she crossed her legs and the way she picked her teeth, it didn't match her beautiful face at all. Did the 9th Emperors not treat you well? Fang Zicheng couldn't help but ask. "Don't mention him to me." Jing Yu suddenly slammed the table, scaring Fang Zicheng. "Well, what's wrong?" Fang Zicheng blinked and asked. Jing Yu didn't answer, but looked Fang Zicheng up and down and said, "I couldn't tell that you were quite loyal. Seeing that you treated me to such a meal, I will be gentler to you in the future." As she spoke, Jing Yu's gaze landed on Fang Zicheng's wrist. "Should I thank you?" The corner of Fang Zicheng's mouth froze as he looked at Jing Yu and said, "You're welcome." It's what I should do. Take me back to the Wangfu while you're at it. Jing Yu's eyebrows curved as she looked at Fang Zicheng with a smile. Her bright eyes were filled with craftiness, and her curved eyebrows and smiling face were extremely moving. Her pink cheeks were right in front of Fang Zicheng's face. Fang Zicheng was slightly stunned, and a strange look flashed through his eyes. He swallowed and said, "Okay, that's great. Let's go." Jing Yu grabbed Fang Zicheng's hand and pulled him out. Her small hand held Fang Zicheng's wrist softly. Fang Zicheng just let her pull him like a fool. The corners of his mouth were slightly pursed, and he didn't even notice that his smile had curved up. When they arrived at the Wangfu, Jing Yu skipped inside. Just as she was about to step into the Wangfu, she suddenly turned around and looked at Fang Zicheng, who was standing at the bottom of the stairs, and said, "Thank you for today. I owe you a favor." After she finished speaking, she ignored Fang Zicheng's reaction and waved her hand to enter the manor with a smile. Fang Zicheng was slightly stunned. He stood at the door with mixed feelings. Was she drawing a clear line with him? Jing Yu leisurely walked into the residence. She rubbed her round belly with a satisfied expression and hummed a little song. She was in an exceptionally good mood. Just as she entered the lotus garden, she saw Yin Xiao sitting at the entrance. When she raised her head and saw that Jing Yu had returned, she was so excited that she couldn't stop talking. "Imperial concubine, where did you go? Why are you back so late? You scared me to death. I thought you—" All right, I'm back now." Jing Yu rolled her eyes and stopped Yin Xiao from continuing. She clapped her hands and said, "Prepare some hot water. I want to take a bath." Yes. Although Yin Xiao had a stomach full of questions, she still obediently agreed. "Go, guard the door. If Xiaochen comes, stop him." Jing Yu was just about to enter the room to take a bath when she suddenly stopped in her tracks. She turned her head and instructed Yin Xiao very solemnly, "Now, immediately, go and close the door to the lotus garden." "Yes." Yin Xiao stared blankly at Jing Yu, who had turned around and walked into the room. She then replied weakly. She couldn't help but mutter in her heart. Did the imperial concubine and the 9th emperors quarrel? After Jing Yu finished giving her instructions, she went to take a bath in satisfaction. After taking a bath, she then lay back on the bed. She sighed comfortably and rolled around on the bed. However, she didn't feel sleepy at all. She could only stand up and walk to the bookshelf at the side. What kind of books are there? Could there be some unspeakable reading material? Thinking of this, Jing Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. She ran very carefully and looked for it bit by bit. Chapter 45. Supernatural Records? What book is this? Jing Yu didn't manage to find the book she wanted, but she did find a storybook instead. To be more precise, it was a supernatural storybook. Jing Yu hugged the book and laid down flat, reading it with great interest. The words in the book were extremely vivid, and Jing Yu was mesmerized for a moment. She flipped over and continued reading while facing the inside of the book. Coincidentally, she saw the contents of the book. "Someone is behind you." Jing Yu's body trembled. She turned around abruptly and saw the black figure standing behind her. "Ah!" Jing Yu swore to the heavens that she was really frightened. The earth-shattering scream that resounded throughout the entire residence caused Yin Xiao to run in a panic. She looked at the scene in front of her with a face full of astonishment. The 9th emperor was standing beside the bed, and Jing Yu was sitting on the bed, hugging her head as she let out earth-shattering screams. What happened? Yin Xiao was completely stunned. The 9th emperor had just walked in, and she didn't see him do anything at all. "You scared me to death." Jing Yu almost cried out. She looked at Xiaochen in front of her and gnashed her teeth in hatred. "Yin Xiao, did you ignore my words?" Jing Yu glared at Yin Xiao and said angrily, "This servant—" Yin Xiao lowered her head, feeling wronged. How would she dare to stop the 9th emperor? Did she not want to live anymore? "Leave," Xiaochen said to Yin Xiao indifferently. Instantly, Yin Xiao hurriedly ran out, completely ignoring her mistress's completely darkened face. "What are you doing here?" Jing Yu's little heart was still thumping. It was obvious that she was quite frightened. She glared at Xiaochen and asked. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu indifferently, then shifted his gaze to the book that Jingyu threw beside the bed. With one glance, he knew why Jingyu was so frightened just now. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Fang Zicheng sent you back today. So what if I did?" Jingyu blinked and looked at Xiao Chen. She turned her head and held the book in her hands. When she heard Xiao Chen's confident tone, she couldn't detect any emotions. Xiao Chen didn't reply. He walked over and seemed to want to sit beside the bed. "Jing, you didn't have it? Since when did you have the right to speak in the prince's residence?" Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and reached out to grab Jing Yu's smooth ankle. He lifted it and pushed it back, instantly pressing down on the seated Jing Yu. Xiao Chen supported himself with his arms and looked at the stunned Jing Yu. "Xiao Chen." A trace of anger flashed across Jing Yu's face. The anger that she had suffered during the day suddenly came out. This was the feeling of living under someone else's roof. "How is it?" Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and admired Jing Yu's constantly changing expression. A trace of a smile flashed across his heart. "Get lost." Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen's calm and composed appearance. She lifted her leg and kicked Xiao Chen's chest. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen's huge body almost fell to the ground. Xiao Chen took a few steps back before he stabilized himself. "Haha." Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen's sorry figure and immediately laughed out loud. She looked at Xiao Chen provocatively. She wanted to see if he would dare to bully her again. "Very good." Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu with a dark expression and coldly spat out these two words. He then continued to walk towards Jing Yu. Jing Yu immediately panicked and hid inside. She swallowed her saliva and looked at Xiao Chen. You threw me out of the carriage today. I only kicked you once." Chapter 46. Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes. Jing Yu could clearly see the faint tiredness in Xiao Chen's eyes. That pair of cold eyes stared straight at her, and the faint ripples in his eyes seemed to be mixed with a sense of silence and serenity. Jing Yu immediately held her breath. Xiao Chen quietly looked at Jing Yu for a long while. Finally, he slowly bent down and gently covered Jing Yu's small face with his cool lips. His faint breath blew on Jing Yu's face. Instantly, Jing Yu's eyes widened, and her body stiffened even more. "Sleep." Xiao Chen raised his hand and pressed Jing Yu's head. With a wave of his hand, he extinguished the candlelight. Jing Yu was in Xiao Chen's embrace. She could clearly hear Xiao Chen's heartbeat and breathing, as well as the faint masculine aura emanating from his body. In the cool night, the two people sleeping in each other's arms emitted a strange sense of harmony. Jing Yu lowered her head, but her eyes were still open in the dark. Her heartbeat inexplicably sped up. Her mind was still thinking about that light kiss just now, and her cheeks instantly turned even redder. What did that kiss mean? What was with Xiao Chen's gaze just now? Jing Yu suddenly realized that she couldn't understand the man lying beside her at all. After letting her imagination run wild for a long time, Jing Yu slowly fell asleep. When she woke up, it was already dawn. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Xiao Chen was putting on his robe. When he heard the sound of Jing Yu waking up, he slightly turned his head to look at her. "Xing Yi will send you to school. I have something to do today, so I'll be back late." Xiao Chen straightened his collar and turned to look at Jing Yu indifferently. Without waiting for Jing Yu to react, he strode away. When Xiao Chen's figure disappeared, Jing Yu blankly came back to her senses. A strange feeling flashed through her heart. In just one night, the Xiao Chen from last night had become like this in the blink of an eye. When Jing Yu arrived at the school, it was already bustling with noise and excitement. The moment Jing Yu stepped into the school, she discovered something strange. Not a single person came to talk to her. They all stood to the side and pointed at her. "It's her. The 9th Emperors threw her out of the carriage yesterday. Does she really think she's a future imperial concubine? Who knows when the 9th Emperors will throw her away? Isn't that so? She even dared to pretend to be an imperial concubine and deceive Princess Xiling. Let's see how she'll explain this to Princess Xiling later. To put it bluntly, she's just a wild girl who clings onto the 9th Emperors. Without the support of the 9th Emperors, she's not even fit to carry Princess Xiling's shoes." That's right. A wild girl who can't even be seen in public dares to be so arrogant. When Jingyu heard these words, her face instantly darkened. This Jingyu really exposed yesterday's incident. Not only did she expose it, but she also made it known to everyone. With a cold expression, Jingyu continued to walk forward. Stop right there. Just as Jingyu was about to enter the room, an angry shout came from behind her. Jingyu sneered and turned around. Is Princess Xiling calling for me? Jingyu turned around and smiled at Xiling, who was dressed in red. Jingyu, how dare you? How dare you play tricks on me? Xiling angrily stood in front of Jingyu and glared at her. Behind her was a crowd of onlookers. There was also a smiling Jingyu. Her eyes were lowered, so no one could see the expression in her eyes. Chapter 47. What are you talking about, Countess Xiling? I don't understand. Jingyu blinked and looked at Xiling with a confused expression. You still dare to quibble? Were you deceiving me with everything you said yesterday? Xiling angrily pointed at Jingyu and said, She's playing with Countess Xiling like a monkey. Jingyan quietly whispered into Xiling's ear. You've got guts. You're just a candidate for the 9th Imperial Concubine, yet you dare to ride on my head. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll truly be ignorant. Xiling raised her chin and looked at Jingyu coldly. Guards! Slap her. The servant girl following behind Xiling arrogantly walked in front of Jingyu. Looking at Jingyu's smiling face, she suddenly felt a burst of anger in her heart. Who wouldn't be scared witless after being reprimanded? Jingyu was actually so arrogant. You shameless wench. The servant girl was furious. She had been by Xiling's side for a long time, and no one had ever dared to do anything to her. Seeing Jingyu's small face, she raised her hand and was about to slap her. Slap? It was true that the slap landed, but the person who did it turned around. Jingyu raised her eyebrows and looked at the maidservant, saying, You're really thick-skinned. You even hurt my hand. Does it feel good to be slapped? The servant girl pointed at Jingyu. She probably didn't think that Jingyu would dare to slap her in front of Xiling. Oh, sorry. Jingyu very politely bowed and said, I forgot. As the saying goes, before you hit a dog, you have to look at its master. Sorry for not paying attention to your master. Jingyu, how dare you call me a dog? Xiling's face turned red. Without thinking, she pushed the servant girl away and raised her hand to slap Jingyu's face. Jingyu forcefully turned Violet Spirit's hand away and stared coldly at Violet Spirit. Do you think I'll stand here like an idiot and let you hit me? I didn't want to be calculative with you, but since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep, why should I be polite? Jingyu, what are you doing? How dare you attack the princess? Do you want to die? Jingyan was scared out of her wits. She hurriedly cried out when she saw Violet Spirit's face filled with pain and unable to move. Shut up. Jingyu looked at Jingyan coldly. Jingyan couldn't help but take a step back from her sharp gaze. Princess Xiling, you're really stupid. You think you're so powerful after being used as a tool? Jingyan only said a few words and you believed her? In the end, you're the one who's going to suffer. Jingyan just casually made an excuse and it's all over. I really don't know how your brain works. What do you mean? Violet Spirit's heart was slightly shocked. She looked at Jingyu uncertainly and asked, What else could it be? It's normal for two people to argue. How do you know that I'm not just playing around with the 9th Empress? Jingyu looked at Violet Spirit as if she were looking at an idiot. She slowly let go of her hand and coldly said, You're a princess, but you're being played around with by a little official's daughters? Nonsense. You're clearly quibbling. Jingyu's words made Jingyan extremely frightened. She angrily pointed at Jingyu and said, If you say I'm quibbling, then I'm quibbling. After all, I'm not eldest Miss Jingyan. I don't have such good relations with people. Anything I say will be called quibbling. Jingyu coldly snorted and turned to leave. Chapter 48. Jingyan, is what she said true? Violet Spirit turned her head and looked coldly at Jingyan. When she saw the panic in Jingyu's eyes, she suddenly felt that Jingyu's words made sense. Her face immediately darkened. Princess, don't listen to her nonsense. She's trying to sow discord between us. Jing Yan said to Violet Spirit with a fawning smile. I think you're the one who's talking nonsense. Violet Spirit's face suddenly became angry. She felt the pain from her wrist and gritted her teeth as she looked at Jing Yan. She raised her hand and slapped Jing Yan's little face. She cursed, "Bitch, how dare you use me as a tool?" Ugh. Jing Yan covered her face in disbelief as she stared at Purple Spirit with wide eyes. She had been friends with Purple Spirit for so long and had never thought that it would be completely ruined by just a few words from Jingyu. Purple Spirit had even hit her. Let's go. Violet Spirit turned and left. Her wrist was slightly swollen, and anger flashed through her heart. Jingyu, how dare you hurt me? I definitely won't let you off. Jing Yan stood there in a daze and watched Princess Violet Spirit and the others leave. She slowly lowered her head as everyone pointed at her and whispered. She had never been treated like this before. This was all thanks to Jingyu. Jing Yan's lowered eyes were filled with resentment. She clenched her fists and slowly turned to leave with her head lowered. For 3 days in a row, Jing Yan and Violet Spirit didn't come to class. They said that they had caught a cold and would come back when they were better. Jingyu had lived a carefree life during these 3 days. Of course, the premise was that they ignored the disgusting etiquette. Straighten your back and raise your arms. Jingyu, where are your eyes looking? Jingyu was stiffly holding a teapot. Wasn't it just pouring water? Where did all these stupid rules come from? Don't spill a single drop of water. Whoever dares to spill it will have to drink all the water in the plate. Mother Yun, who was sitting on the high seat, was drinking a cup of tea. She looked at the people below who couldn't hold the teacup steadily, shook her head and said, "Should I drink all the water and not pour it out?" Jingyu thought of something and asked Mother Yun with her eyes lit up. What? Mother Yun was slightly stunned and looked at Jingyu in confusion. However, when she saw Jingyu's action, she suddenly coughed. Cough, cough, cough. What are you doing? Mother Yun stared at Jingyu, who was lying on the plate, and asked, "Didn't Nanny tell me to drink all the water spilled on the plate? I accidentally poured all the water out, so I'm trying my best to drink it up." Jingyu said seriously as she slowly drank the water on the plate. "Lon Lon, how much longer until it ends?" Under the scorching sun, Jingyu stared at a plate and stood straight in the courtyard, looking like she was about to cry. "About 2 hours. Hang in there." On the other side, Shengguan Linglon and Ning Xiangyuan were sitting on chairs with a small umbrella to block the sun. There were various kinds of snacks beside their hands, and they were eating and drinking slowly with tea. Jingyu squinted at them eating and swallowed hard. Suddenly, the plate above her head began to sway unsteadily. Jingyu hurriedly stiffened her body and steadied the plate. She was about to cry. "Let me eat something while Mother Yun is not here. I'm starving." Jingyu looked at Shengguan Linglon and said. Chapter 49. No, do you want to continue standing for 4 more hours? Shengguan Linglon rolled his eyes and threw a fruit into his mouth. He looked at Jingyu and said, "I really don't know what's in your head. You poured all the water into the plate to drink. No wonder Mother Yun punished you." "I know I was wrong. If I had known, I wouldn't have poured it into the plate. I would have drunk it directly. That way, I wouldn't have to hold this broken plate." "Puff. You'd better continue standing." Shengguan Linglon turned his face and looked like he didn't want to talk to Jingyu. "Pa. Yeah, you're so cute." Ning Xiangyuan smiled happily. After getting along with each other for a few days, the 3 of them had become a small group and formed a rare friendship. Jingyu was speechless. It was the first time in her life that someone said she was cute. When Jingyu dragged her tired body out of the gate of the school, she suddenly found that the whole gate was empty, only leaving the fallen leaves on the ground floating in the wind. "Damn, who can tell me where the carriage is? Has it been eaten?" Jingyu looked around and was absolutely sure that the carriage had really disappeared. Only Jingyu was left in the whole gate of the school. Suddenly, Jingyu wanted to cry but had no tears. There were no horses around and she didn't have any money. At this moment, Jingyu felt a deep resentment. She swore to God that the next time she went out, she would definitely bring money. There were a few people on the street. Because she was punished to stand for some time, it was late and the street was getting dark. Jingyu lowered her head and dragged her tired body forward step by step, looking at the street in front of her in confusion. Is it this way, or this way? Jingyu turned in a circle and was completely dumbfounded. I don't know the way. Jingyu squatted on the ground and wanted to cry but had no tears. She rested for a while and was about to randomly choose a direction to walk in. Unexpectedly, the moment she stood up, she suddenly felt a cold, murderous intent coming toward her. Jingyu's face turned cold and rolled on the ground to avoid the murderous intent. She looked at the dart nailed to the cement ground and raised her hand to look. A black shadow with a machete in his hand chopped toward Jingyu without saying a word. Jingyu was shocked and quickly stepped back. She grabbed a bamboo pole and raised it to block. Who are you? Jingyu was forced to step back and was shocked. What a cold, murderous aura. Only an assassin would have such a technique. Who did she offend? Damn. The bamboo pole in Jingyu's hand had been chopped until only a small section was left. She had no choice but to kick the man in black a few steps back. She turned around and ran. After a few turns, she entered a small alley, but the man behind her was still chasing her. Fuck your grandpa. Jingyu turned around and found that the man in black had actually jumped into the room. His nimble movements made Jingyu twitch her mouth. So what if he knew Qinggong? As Jingyu ran, she found a half-open door. Without thinking, she bent over and squeezed in. She quickly closed the door and held her breath. She peeked through the crack of the door to see what was going on outside. The man in black rushed over, but Jingyu still didn't dare to move. Years of experience told her that if she moved now, she would be courting death. Sure enough, the man in black came back again. He looked around but couldn't find Jingyu. In the end, he stopped in front of the courtyard door. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at the door. Jingyu was so nervous that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. Chapter 50. She held her breath tightly, not letting any of her aura leak out. The strange thing was that the man in black clearly knew that Jingyu was inside, but he only stood at the door for a while before flying away, leaving behind a dumbfounded Jingyu. Was he trying to lure the snake out of its hole? I'm not that stupid. Jingyu saw that there was no one outside, but she didn't go out. Instead, she turned around to look at the courtyard that was full of weeds. There was only one path that had been trampled out. Jingyu blinked and followed the path slowly into the courtyard. Only then did she realize that the courtyard was quite big. If she walked any further, she would reach the bamboo forest. Jingyu paused and looked at the dilapidated house in confusion. Was there really someone living here? Just as Jingyu was puzzled, she suddenly heard a strange sound coming from within the bamboo forest. Jingyu's heart trembled slightly. She carefully walked towards the bamboo forest. There seemed to be something in the dense bamboo forest. Jingyu held her breath and walked closer. Finally, she saw a large circle surrounded by a thin veil. Jingyu frowned slightly and raised her hand to lift the veil. The moment she lifted the veil, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. In the dark green pool, a man with a head full of white hair was leaning against the side of the pool with his back facing her. A cold wind blew against her face. The man with his back facing her seemed to be suppressing some great pain as he let out an unbearable groan. Jingyu stared blankly at the man's back. Her feet moved slightly, as if she wanted to retreat. She didn't expect that when she took a step, she would accidentally step on a bamboo leaf. The sound of movement was very soft, but it suddenly woke the man soaking in the water. Who is it? When the voice sounded, a water arrow shot out. Jingyu's heart trembled and she quickly dodged to the side. She pulled down the veil to block the water arrow and ran away without hesitation. When she turned back, she saw the side of the white-haired man's face. Half of his face was covered with black veins, as if all the veins on his face had bulged and turned black. His pair of cold eyes only had a tiny bit of black irises and the rest were the whites of his eyes. That appearance was as frightening as it could be. Jingyu ran out in a panic, not caring if there was an assassin waiting outside. Her mind was filled with the side profile of the white-haired man, as if he was a monster. Master. A ghostly figure in black landed by the side of the bamboo forest and lowered her head to look at the white-haired man with his back facing her. It's her? The man's voice was slightly hoarse as he asked. Yes. Jing Yu didn't know why she was running. She only had one thought in her mind. Run. Jing Yu ran until she couldn't run anymore. She leaned against the wall and panted heavily. Her heart was still beating violently and her forehead was covered in sweat. After confirming that no one was chasing her, she sat down on the ground and didn't move. Jing Yu? Just as Jing Yu was about to relax, she was suddenly startled by a voice. She looked up and saw Fang Zicheng's surprised eyes. She immediately let out a sigh of relief. It's you? Jing Yu continued to sit on the ground and raised her hand to wipe the sweat on her forehead. She calmly responded as a greeting. It's really you? Fang Zicheng was stunned. He walked in front of Jing Yu and squatted down. Why are you squatting in front of my door? Are you looking for me? Chapter 51. You're home. Jing Yu looked up in confusion. Only then did she see the wall in front of her. Indeed, it was a courtyard with high walls. On the horizontal board, there were a few words written in flamboyant calligraphy. Grand Secretary's Mansion. It's really your home. Jing Yu lowered her head helplessly. She couldn't find her own home, so she actually ran to someone else's house. Yes, Fang Zicheng smiled faintly and looked at Jing Yu. He blinked and said, Do you want to come in and have a seat? Forget about it. You should treat me to a meal first. I'm starving, Jing Yu said as she tugged at Fang Zicheng's sleeve. She looked at Fang Zicheng with an aggrieved expression. Fang Zicheng's heart skipped a beat and he agreed repeatedly. When the two of them sat in the restaurant, Fang Zicheng started to wonder if Xiao Chen was really harsh on Jing Yu. What a good person, Jing Yu said with a sigh as she rubbed her round belly in satisfaction and looked at Fang Zicheng, who was smiling gently across her. It's rare for you to praise me like this. Fang Zicheng's smile became even more gentle. Don't smile anymore. You're giving me goosebumps. Jing Yu's mouth twitched slightly. She looked at Fang Zicheng's face, which was still hanging on it, and suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She really didn't know how his face was made. Did he really not feel uncomfortable when he smiled? Fang Zicheng blinked slightly. This was the first time someone had disliked the smile he was so proud of. I have to go back. If I don't go back, I don't know how my servant girl will cry. Jing Yu stood up and patted Fang Zicheng's shoulder magnanimously. She said, Send me back. As usual, Fang Zicheng sent Jing Yu to the gate of the Wang Fu. Seeing the figure of Jing Yu running in happily, a smile flashed through his eyes. It was no longer the fake smile that did not reach his eyes, but a sincere smile that came from the bottom of his heart. Young master, don't tell me you're really interested in the 9th imperial concubine? The manservant driving the carriage was slightly shocked when he saw the smile on his young master's face. Don't you think she's interesting? Fang Zicheng lay on his back in the carriage and waved his hand to lower the curtain. He closed his eyes slightly and played with the thumb ring in his hand. With a faint smile on his face, he leisurely walked back home. Jing Yu returned to the lotus garden. Sure enough, after listening to Yin Xiao's tearful complaints, she finally lay down on her soft bed. Instantly, she felt a wave of comfort in her body and mind. It wasn't easy. He almost died 3 times. Another killer, another monster. Oh, in the end, she almost starved to death on the streets. As Jing Yu lay on the bed, the image of that white-haired man unconsciously surfaced in her mind. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Who exactly was that man? While she was thinking, Jing Yu, with a stomach full of questions, finally couldn't hold back her sleepiness and slowly fell asleep. In her daze, she seemed to feel someone tugging at her blanket. Jing Yu angrily kicked her leg and rolled over to continue sleeping, completely ignoring what she had kicked. Xiao Chen's face darkened as he looked at the woman who had turned over to sleep. She was only wearing a simple inner garment and was hugging the blanket tightly. The skin on her exposed shoulders was not covered at all. Xiao Chen wanted to pull the blanket over Jing Yu, but she actually kicked him. Damned woman. She's still so restless even in her sleep. Xiao Chen suppressed the anger in his heart and lifted his hand to remove his outer garment. He looked at Jing Yu who was still sleeping and sighed softly. He carefully pulled the blanket over her and put down the mattress. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Chapter 52. When she woke up early in the morning, Jingyu felt something pressing against her chest. She wanted to open her eyes, but she couldn't. She was in a daze for a long time before she finally opened her eyes. She lowered her head slightly and saw the thing on her chest. It was an arm. Jingyu was slightly stunned. She followed the arm and saw Xiao Chen's handsome face. It was so handsome that it could make people fall into a state of infatuation. Looking at that face without any traces of Photoshop, that chin, that nose, those eyelashes, and that mouth, it was simply handsome to a certain extent. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen, who was still sleeping soundly. Her heart was slightly moved. She carefully raised her hand and slowly approached Xiao Chen's face. She really wanted to know if his skin was real or fake. Was there such a thing as plastic surgery in ancient times? Jingyu touched Xiao Chen's face as she wished. She gently poked and found that Xiao Chen still didn't move. She immediately became bolder. Just as she was about to continue, she suddenly heard a cold voice above her head. "Have you touched enough?" Jingyu screamed and rolled inside. She held her face and looked in horror at Xiao Chen, who was staring at her with a pair of cold eyes. "When did you wake up?" Jingyu's little heart was beating fast and her face was burning. "When you weren't awake yet." Xiao Chen propped himself up and squinted at Jingyu's evasive gaze. His eyes flashed with a faint smile. "Good for you. You actually pretended to be asleep and lied to me." Jingyu was slightly stunned. She then angrily glared at Xiao Chen and complained. "If I didn't do this, how could I see the imperial concubine's true nature?" Xiao Chen leaned closer to Jingyu. His teasing gaze made Jingyu's face burn. She made a few random squeaks and hurriedly ran off the bed to avoid Xiao Chen's approach. Xiao Chen tilted his head and looked at Jingyu running away. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly. He slightly closed his eyes and stood up. He took a robe from the side and put it on. Jingyu randomly put on her clothes and started to shout for Yin Xiao to help. When Jingyu finished putting on her clothes, she saw Xiao Chen walk out of the room. She instantly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, she didn't continue to speak. It was so embarrassing. Right, just as Jingyu was letting her imagination run wild, Xiao Chen suddenly stopped and turned to look at Jingyu. "Why did Fang Zicheng send you back yesterday? You still dare to say that?" Jingyu jumped up when she heard that. She angrily glared at Xiao Chen and said, "Didn't you say there was a carriage to pick me up? Why didn't I see anything when I came out? I couldn't find my way back and was even chased by assassins." Xiao Chen's face immediately turned cold. That frosty expression made Jingyu tremble. "I know." Xiao Chen indifferently threw down these 4 words and walked away, leaving behind a stunned Jingyu. The website is being cleaned. It is said that other than holding hands, there is nothing else, not even meat soup. This chapter has been changed. Please forgive me. Please continue to support me. The website is being cleaned. It is said that other than holding hands, there is nothing else, not even meat soup. This chapter has been changed. Please forgive me. Please continue to support me. The website is being cleaned. It is said that other than holding hands, there is nothing else, not even meat soup. This chapter has been changed. Please forgive me. Please continue to support me. Chapter 53. "I understand," Xiao Chen said indifferently and left, leaving behind a stunned Jingyu. Therefore, her grievances were in vain. She was actually ignored so coldly. "Xing Yi, what's going on?" Xiao Chen sat on the high seat, and the slightly downturned corners of his mouth were enough to show that he was very, very angry at the moment. Just his figure sitting there immediately made the temperature in the room drop by a few degrees. The coachman said that someone told him that the imperial concubine went back in someone else's carriage, so he drove back, Xing Yi said, swallowing with difficulty. "Who?" "The eldest daughter of the prime minister's residence, Jing Yan." Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes coldly. His slender fingers twirling the teacup were strong. The room fell into a strange silence. Xing Yi tried his best to shrink his body so that he wouldn't be hurt by Xiao Chen's cold aura. Go investigate the matter of the assassin. Xiao Chen put down the teacup in his hand and stood up. He looked coldly at Xing Yi and said, "If there's a next time, you'll bring your head to see me." Xing Yi knelt on one knee and bowed. It's over, it's over. Master is really angry this time. When Jing Yu arrived at the academy today, she repeatedly reminded him to remember to take her back. Then, she covered the banknotes she got from Xiao Chen and finally walked into the academy with peace of mind. The academy was very lively today. The main reason was, of course, that Jing Yan and Countess Xiling had both returned. Their covetous gazes attracted everyone's attention to Jing Yu. Today's lesson is to teach you how to walk. Mother Yun, wearing a light purple palace dress, stood on the stone path outside the courtyard. She turned around and looked at everyone indifferently. "Everyone, line up in 2 rows and follow my steps." Jing Yu stared at Mother Yun's lotus steps and the corner of her mouth twitched. So difficult, and what kind of stupid shoes were these? It was so uncomfortable to wear. Jing Yu walked unsteadily as if she would fall at any time. Behind her was an unfamiliar woman, and behind her was Jing Yan. Jing Yan walked behind her and looked at Jing Yu's unsteady appearance. She laughed coldly in her heart. She looked at the stone path and walked towards the pond. Her eyes moved slightly. While the 2 nannies weren't paying attention, she reached out and pulled the woman in front of her. The 2 nannies quickly changed positions. Jing Yu, walking in front, was completely focused on walking. Naturally, she didn't notice the movement behind her. The stone path led straight to the pond. Jing Yu swallowed her saliva and steadied her steps. Just as she was about to take the next step, Jing Yu suddenly felt a foot under her. Shocked, she hurriedly looked for a place to land. She didn't find a place to land, but she felt a hand reaching towards her. Jing Yu's eyes turned cold. Almost without hesitation, she stood on her tiptoes and turned around. Her elbow hit the person behind her directly into the pond. She pretended to be hit by someone and fell onto the stone path. Instantly, the formation was disrupted. When Jing Yu fell to the ground, she finally saw who had fallen into the pond. "Who hit me?" Jing Yu's eyes turned and she suddenly cried out in pain. She held her waist and cried out in pain. Chapter 54. Someone fell into the water. There was a burst of exclamations. Mother Yun was obviously shocked. How could she fall into the water when she was walking well? "Quick, who knows how to swim? Go into the water and save him." Mother Yun shouted at the panicked crowd. "I don't know. I don't know." The crowd waved their hands to show that they didn't know how to swim. Just then, a woman suddenly said, "Miss Shangguan, don't you know how to swim? I saw you save a child last time." "I'm in the sinus, so it's not convenient for me to swim," Shangguan Linglan said sadly. "Well," everyone looked helpless. The woman who spoke looked at Shangguan Linglan suspiciously. She couldn't help thinking, why did he have to come at this time of all times? The group of women were shouting on the shore. Jing Yan, on the other hand, lost her strength after struggling a few times and slowly sank into the pond. When the guards rescued her, she was already unconscious. Fortunately, she spat out the water. Jing Yu, who was watching from the side, sighed in pity. Why didn't he drown? What the hell is going on? Mother Yun glanced at the crowd coldly and asked. The crowd trembled and stepped back, not daring to speak. Mother Yun, Jing Yan and Jing Yu fell down together. Who knows who pushed Miss Jing Yan into the pond? The woman who spoke was the one who pointed out that Shangguan Linglan could swim. Her name was Dong Siye, and she was the daughter of the Dong family who played with Jing Yan. "Miss Dong, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want." Jing Yu sneered and looked at Dong Siye, saying, "I was the one who was hit? What evidence do you have to prove that you were hit?" Dong Siye looked at Jing Yu and raised her chin. "Let's not talk about evidence first. Let's talk about why Miss Jing Yan walked behind me for no reason. I remember that when we were lining up, you were standing behind me, and Jing Yan was standing behind you. Isn't that right?" Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and pointed at a woman. "I didn't notice." The woman seemed to be frightened when Jing Yu called her name. She bit her lip and trembled as she replied softly. "I saw it. Shangguan Linglan stood up and said, I was standing behind Jing Yan. I saw Jing Yan pull on Miss Lu's sleeve and ask her to switch places with her. Lu Miaoqiu, is that what Shangguan Linglan said? Mother Yun looked up at Lu Miaoqiu seriously and asked. Lu Miaoqiu nervously tugged at the corner of her clothes. She felt that everyone's gaze was on her and she was so scared that she almost burst into tears. She carelessly replied yes and didn't say anything else. Look, why did Miss Jing Yan switch places with Miss Lu for no reason? I was learning well, but after Miss Jing Yan switched places with Miss Lu, I was hit and fell down. Jing Yu sneered and looked at Jing Yan, who was pale and covering her mouth. Miss Dong, don't you want evidence? Jing Yu raised her hand and said, Mother Yun, you can come with me to the room and take off my clothes to see where my waist was hit. It's still hurting. Jing Yan was trembling. She didn't know if it was because of the cold or because she was angry with Jing Yu. No need. Miss Jing Yan, go back and tell your master that I can't teach you anymore. Tell him to find someone else. Mother Yun stood up and looked at Jing Yan indifferently. You don't have to come in the future. Come, send Miss Jing Yan back to the mansion. Chapter 55. Mother Yun stood up and looked at Jing Yan indifferently. You don't need to come here in the future. Come, send Miss Jing Yan back to the manor. Mother Yun said, I know I was wrong. Panic flashed through Jing Yan's eyes as she hurriedly begged in a trembling voice. Let's go. Mother Yun looked at Jing Yan indifferently and turned to leave. Mother Yun didn't just teach the daughters of officials, she also taught countless palace maids and concubines. Which of the current imperial concubines and empresses hadn't been taught by Mother Yun? This reputation was enough for Mother Yun to do whatever she wanted. Moreover, Mother Yun was favored by the Empress Dowager. The news of Jing Yan being kicked out of the academy was enough to leave a stain on her reputation. Sigh. Jing Yu sat on the stone chair and sighed countless times. Shangguan Linglan finally couldn't stand it anymore. He angrily glared at Jing Yu and said, What exactly are you sighing about? Nothing, I'm just sighing about how Jing Yan is so weak. How did she get kicked out? Jing Yu raised her hand to hold a cup of tea and smacked her lips as she spoke. So you've been sighing for so long because you're unhappy that Jing Yan got kicked out? Shangguan Linglan's expression could be described as a riot of colors. Beside him, Ning Xiangyun violently trembled and silently moved her little chair to the side. Yes, Jing Yu blinked in response. Jing Yu, come over here. Let's fight. Shangguan Linglan's expression changed unpredictably. In the end, he put on his warmest smile as he spoke to Jing Yu. Jing Yu and Ning Xiangyun both widened their eyes at Shangguan Linglan's warm smile. Instantly, they felt a chill run down their spines. Without thinking, they turned and ran away. The two people running around the courtyard made Ning Xiangyun laugh out loud. Zi Ling sat in the pavilion and listened to the flattering words of the servants beside her. Suddenly, a sense of irritation rose in her heart. She raised her head and looked at Jing Yu and the others who were playing around. A look of envy rose in her eyes. Although she was a princess, she had never felt happy before. They were both studying at the same academy, but Jing Yu acted as if she didn't care about anything and was carefree. On the other hand, she had to sit in the best seat and listen to the words of others. After so many years, she had already grown tired of it. Go and call Jing Yu over here. Violet's spirit raised her chin and ordered the girl who was smiling obsequiously. Call her over for what? The girl had been talking to Violet's spirit and hadn't heard a reply for a long time. Now that Violet's spirit had finally replied, she was told to call Jing Yu over. She was instantly stunned. If I tell you to call her over, just call her over. What's with all the nonsense? Violet's spirit raised her eyebrows and said impatiently. The girl lowered her head and walked out unwillingly. When she turned around, her expression changed instantly. If her father hadn't wanted to use the princess to help her, she wouldn't have had to compromise like this. When Jing Yu heard that Violet's spirit wanted to see her, she was slightly stunned. She looked up at the pavilion and saw Violet's spirit's unbelievably arrogant look. She rolled her eyes and looked at the girl who had come to deliver the message. She raised her eyebrows and said indifferently, "If she wants to see me, let her come and see me herself. Why should I go over? It's your fortune that Princess Xiling wants to see you. How dare you ask the princess to come and see you?" The girl who had brought the message raised her eyebrows. Seeing Jing Yu's indifferent look, anger rose in her heart. Chapter 56. You can slowly enjoy this good fortune. I'm not interested. Jing Yu shrugged and walked back to the stone chair to sit down. She didn't care at all about the woman whose expression had changed because of her words. She grabbed the teacup and started pouring tea into her mouth. Jing Yu had only just sat down when she saw Violet Spirit bring a group of people over to Jing Yu. Before Jing Yu could ask anything, Violet Spirit put her hands on her hips and stared at Jing Yu. "I called you. Why didn't you go over? Why do I have to go over just because you called me?" Jing Yu looked at Violet Spirit in confusion. "Do I get paid if I go over?" Violet Spirit didn't know how to respond to Jing Yu's words. She thought that what Jing Yu said was right, but she was a princess. She had never failed to move people. Now that she saw Jing Yu like this, she didn't know what to do. "Princess Violet Spirit, if you want others to respect you, can you learn to respect others first?" Jing Yu stood up and looked Violet Spirit in the eye. "You are a princess, but you only have this title. Do you think that without this title, the people behind you will still let you do whatever you want?" "What do you mean?" Violet Spirit's heart trembled as she looked at Jing Yu. "What I mean is what I mean." Jing Yu shrugged and said, "But you are a princess. This is an unchangeable fact. I was just making an example. Let's go. Time for class." When Jing Yu saw that Mother Yun had returned, she turned around and left, leaving behind Purple Spirit, who was lost in thought. After class, Jing Yu and Shengguan Linglan went back together. There were guests at home, so they went back first. Jing Yu didn't ask them to stay. She had the coachman stop the carriage first. She and Shengguan Linglan chatted as they walked. "Hey, today's weather is really good." Jing Yu narrowed her eyes as she looked at the fiery red sunset in the sky. Her eyes revealed a faint smile as she admired the beautiful scenery that illuminated the streets. Her heart was filled with joy as she inexplicably thought of the days in the forest. "I didn't know that you could see such beautiful skies in the Imperial City." Jing Yu sighed. "Jing Yu, where were you before?" Shengguan Linglan's heart skipped a beat. He turned to look at Jing Yu and asked. "In the Roman forest." Jing Yu replied indifferently. She blinked her eyes at Shengguan Linglan and said, "You must have never seen how big the Roman forest is, or how many rare and exotic fruits there are, as well as magical animals and plants." "Wow, so powerful?" Shengguan Linglan's eyes lit up as he looked at Jing Yu and asked, "You grew up in the forest? Have you ever thought of looking for your parents?" During this period of time, Jing Yu and Shengguan Linglan had gotten to know each other. However, the two of them had a tacit understanding not to talk about Jing Yu's parents. Today, Shengguan Linglan didn't know why, but he suddenly wanted to ask Jing Yu to see her thoughts. "Oh." Jing Yu shook her head and said bluntly, "I have no interest in looking for parents who would even abandon their own child." "Have you ever thought that your parents actually had something they couldn't say?" Shengguan Linglan frowned in disapproval. "I don't know what the so-called something they couldn't say is, but to abandon a newborn child in the forest, no matter how you look at it, such parents can't be forgiven. Or maybe my parents died long ago." "So this person is Jing Yan's uncle?" Jing Yu blinked and asked. "Yes." Shengguan Linglan nodded and said, "Although he is Jing Yan's uncle, after that accident, Jing Zhan moved out of the Prime Minister's manor. He bought a house and lives alone. He doesn't have a good relationship with his younger brother." "I see." Jing Yu understood and nodded. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. As expected, there were a lot of troubles in this big manor. It's a good thing that he has a son. Otherwise, he would have been bullied by the Jing clan, Shengguan Linglan said disdainfully. That has nothing to do with us. I'm hungry. Let's go find something to eat." Jing Yu looked at the wheelchair getting closer and closer. She pulled on Shangguan Linglan's arm and said. She was really hungry, especially when she smelled the fragrance of food. Chapter 58. You only know how to eat? Shangguan Linglan helplessly lowered his head and turned to leave with Jingyu. Jingzhan, who originally had his head lowered, suddenly raised it. His gaze fell on a figure that flashed past the crowd. It was just a glance, but it made Jingzhan's heart tremble slightly. In a trance, he seemed to have seen the figure of his deceased wife. Uncle Lu, I think I saw Yun's figure just now. Jingzhan tightly clenched his fist and said, Eldest young master, we're about to reach the Prime Minister's residence. Uncle Lu, who was pushing the wheelchair behind him, slightly trembled when he heard Jingzhan's words. His eyes revealed a sorrowful expression. He didn't answer Jingzhan's question. Instead, he lightly reminded him. Jingzhan once again lowered his head. He tightly pursed his lips. Even though he knew it was fake, he couldn't help but miss her. Jingzhan's gaze fell on his crippled leg. His eyes were filled with grief. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan found a small stall and sat down to eat noodles. At first, Jingyu thought that Shangguan Linglan wouldn't be used to it. She didn't expect Shanghai Linglan to be a regular customer of this noodle house. Her familiarity with the boss left Jingyu dumbfounded. I thought that young ladies like you disdain to eat these things the most. Jingyu ate the noodles in her bowl in big mouthfuls. Her eyes revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. It was indeed delicious. My brother and I often go out to eat noodles. It's not that we don't have food at home. It's just that every time we sneak out, it's a very interesting feeling. Sitting at the same table with everyone, we even get to know new friends from time to time. Shangguan Linglan also ate with relish. If your words were heard by those poor people, they would definitely beat you to death. Jingyu said with a laugh. Who dares to beat me? Shangguan Linglan frowned and coldly snorted. This lady's martial arts are not for show. Jingyu laughed at her unreservedly. Their bickering made the owner of the noodle house laugh uncontrollably. After the two finished eating, they walked back together. Inexplicably, they felt much closer. Jingyu also suddenly felt a little more stable in this strange world. By the time Jingyu returned to the prince's mansion, the sky had already darkened. She quickly washed her face and rinsed her mouth and rinsed her mouth and rinsed her mouth and rinsed her mouth before lying down on the bed with satisfaction. She pulled up her sleeves and looked at her bruised elbow. Her expression immediately turned ugly. That damn Jing Yen. She had caused her to fall on the gravel road and bruise her elbow. He wondered if there were any other bruises. With this thought in mind, Jingyu simply took off her underwear and sat on the bed wearing only a small doo-doo. She twisted her body to see if her waist and hip had been bumped. After taking a closer look, she saw that there was indeed a bruise on her hip bone. She reached out to press it and immediately cried out in pain. If she didn't touch it, she wouldn't feel it. Why did it hurt so much when she touched it? What are you doing? Xiao Chen's face darkened as he looked at Jingyu, who had taken off her clothes and was sitting on the bed. Aya! Jingyu jumped and glared at Xiao Chen. She angrily said, Why don't you make any noise when you walk? I knocked on the door. Xiao Chen walked towards Jingyu. When he saw the bruise on Jingyu's elbow, his expression immediately turned cold. He suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Jingyu's arm. He asked, Who did this? Jingyu was slightly stunned. She looked at the bruise on her elbow and said, I fell and hit it. You can even fall while walking? Xiao Chen suddenly tightened his grip on Jingyu's arm. Chapter 59. It hurts? Jingyu quickly slapped away Xiao Chen's hand and muttered, Am I that stupid? I was knocked down by Jing Yen. I'm lucky that I didn't fall into the lake. Jing Yen again. Xiao Chen's expression immediately turned cold. His sharp eyes saw the bruise on Jingyu's hip bone when she took off her clothes. His eyes darkened. Jingyu felt guilty under Xiao Chen's stare and hurriedly looked for clothes to put on. She wants to knock you into the lake? Xiao Chen sat down on the bed and narrowed his eyes as he watched Jingyu put on her belt. It's probably because I made her suffer a slap from Countess Xiling last time, so she hates me. Jingyu shrugged nonchalantly. Last time, the carriage left early because Jing Yan said that you left with her. This king remembers that Jing Yan is from the Prime Minister's estate? Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and asked. Jing Yu nodded her head. Her heart was filled with anger. It was indeed that woman's doing. She was wondering why the carriage suddenly left. She thought that Xiao Chen was taking revenge on her, but it turned out that wasn't the case. This king understands. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and stood up to slowly take off his outer clothes. Jing Yu watched Xiao Chen's actions with wide eyes. Xiao Chen. Jing Yu lay on the bed and looked at Xiao Chen as she called out. Xiao Chen's hands didn't stop taking off his clothes as he calmly raised his eyes and responded. Why do you keep squeezing in the same bed as me? The estate is so big. I don't believe that you don't have a place to sleep. Jing Yu stared at Xiao Chen and said, You're right. Xiao Chen casually placed his outer robe on the screen and turned to look at Jing Yu. The estate is so big. This king can sleep wherever he wants. As he spoke, Xiao Chen waved his hand and the fierce wind from his palm extinguished all the candles in the room. Don't turn off the lights? No, don't put out the candles. Jing Yu suddenly sat up and looked at Xiao Chen's figure as he climbed onto the bed. She wanted to cry but had no tears. Her protest failed again. Xiao Chen lay on the bed, turned his head slightly, and closed his eyes. Jing Yu sat in place for a while before sighing and lying down as well. Just as she was in a daze, a strong arm wrapped around her waist. Jing Yu pushed in annoyance but found that she couldn't push it away. She didn't care and continued to sleep. Late at night, Xiao Chen woke up and looked at the woman sleeping peacefully in his arms. A strange feeling flashed through his heart. He only felt that his originally cold heart was suddenly filled with a warm current. Xiao Chen couldn't help but want to embrace this warm feeling. When the sky was bright, Jing Yu opened her eyes and saw Xiao Chen. She was already used to it. She mumbled and turned over to continue sleeping. Xiao Chen looked at the innocent Jing Yu and smiled. He couldn't help but want to tease her. Don't move. Jing Yu was talking to the beautiful man in her dreams. She was about to see him through the haze when she suddenly felt an uncomfortable feeling on her face. She immediately waved her hand unhappily to chase away the uncomfortable feeling and continued to meet the beautiful man in her dreams. Don't move. Jing Yu had just felt something when the uncomfortable feeling came again. Jing Yu immediately frowned and turned over to bury her face in the brocade quilt. Xiao Chen's smile slowly deepened. He looked at Jing Yu's exposed nape and continued to play with her hair. Chapter 60. Ah! Are you done yet? Jing Yu was completely enraged this time. She sat up abruptly, opened her eyes, and glared at Xiao Chen, who was playing with her hair and lying beside her with his head propped up. His chest was slightly open, revealing his skin. Jing Yu's eyes widened slightly and she swallowed with difficulty. Too powerful. One word, handsome. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Jing Yu, who looked like she was about to drool uncontrollably. He raised his eyebrows and asked, Have you seen enough? No, cough cough cough. Why are you still here? Jing Yu almost blurted out her thoughts. She suddenly stopped and pretended to cough before asking with a red face. What kind of sweet dream is the imperial concubine having? You kept tugging on this king's hand and telling me to stay and accompany you. Xiao Chen slowly stood up and looked at Jing Yu from the corner of his eyes. Now you're asking why this king is still here? Ah? That accident. Jing Yu's face instantly turned red. She lowered her head and didn't dare to speak. This time she had lost a lot of face. Still not willing to get up? Xiao Chen put on his outer clothes as he looked at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu instantly jumped up. She didn't even put on her shoes as she ran to the dressing table and called out Yin Xiao's name. Xiao Chen looked at the lively Jing Yu and raised his eyebrows. He buckled his belt and said, This king will send you to the academy today. Jing Yu tilted her head slightly to look at Xiao Chen and asked, Why? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up. Xiao Chen glanced at Jing Yu indifferently before turning to leave. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Jing Yu pouted and looked at Yin Xiao. Don't put in so many hairpins, it's heavy. But this servant only inserted 3 hairpins. Yin Xiao instantly felt wronged. Was 3 hairpins still heavy? Can you help me tie it up with a headband? Jing Yu blinked as she looked at Yin Xiao. The imperial concubine is a woman. How can she have a hairband to tie up her hair? Only female officials can tie up their hair. Yin Xiao said to Jing Yu seriously. Then, just use a hairpin to fix it in place. Throw all the other miscellaneous things aside. Jing Yu looked at the dazzling array of jewelry on the dressing table and pushed it aside in disgust, as if she didn't want to see it anymore. Looking at Jing Yu's actions, Yin Xiao widened her eyes and sighed helplessly. She really didn't know what the imperial concubine was thinking. Those young misses from official families couldn't wait to wear all the jewelry on their heads, but her own imperial concubine hated these exquisite jewelry so much? She didn't wear any headdress or accessories. Although it was pleasing to the eye, it was more or less impolite. Jing Yu didn't think too much about it. As long as she was comfortable, it was fine. How other people looked at her was their business. After Jing Yu finished tidying up, she walked out of the Fu. Seeing the black carriage parked at the Fu's entrance, she paused and frowned. Xiao Chen stood by the side of the carriage. Seeing Jing Yu walk out, he turned slightly and was about to step onto the carriage. Xiao Chen, I can go by myself. I don't need you to send me. Jing Yu lowered her eyes and said indifferently. She turned to the guard at the door and said, Bring my carriage here. Come in. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold as he stared at Jing Yu. Displeasure flashed in his eyes as he said, I'm not going. Jing Yu shook her head. Do you want this king to use force? Xiao Chen's expression turned completely cold. Chapter 61. Ha! Jing Yu sneered. She looked at Xiao Chen with burning eyes and said, Xiao Chen, why do you think that I will happily climb onto the carriage after you threw me out? Xiao Chen's body suddenly froze. He suddenly thought of something and clenched his fists. He watched as Jing Yu turned and walked to her carriage. She rode the horse far away without even looking back. Xiao Chen stood in place and watched the carriage gradually disappear. Master? Interrogation Officer 1 swallowed his saliva and called out, Throw away this carriage and get another one. Xiao Chen closed his eyes slightly and said, Xing Yi was instantly dumbfounded. He blinked and looked at his master. After confirming that Xiao Chen was not joking, he immediately shook his body and silently abandoned Xiao Chen's favorite carriage in the backyard of the prince's mansion. He then got a new carriage. Before Jing Yu arrived at the school, she heard the noise of discussion at the gate. There were many carriages blocking the gate. Jing Yu frowned slightly and had to get out of the carriage at the periphery. Only then did she see what was going on inside. I heard that the imperial concubine's favorite person in the palace is here to deliver an imperial decree. It seems that there is going to be a tea party in the palace. She specially sent an imperial decree to invite us to the school. Really? Invite us to the palace? When the discussion reached Jing Yu's ears, Jing Yu raised her eyebrows in surprise. The imperial concubine sent an imperial decree? Enter the palace to attend a tea party? Jing Yu's eyebrows twitched fiercely. She suddenly had an ominous feeling. This tea party would definitely not be peaceful. When Jing Yu was lost in her thoughts, she saw that everyone made way for Mother Yun. Mother Yun stood in front of the gate of the college, bowed and sent 2 or 3 people dressed as eunuchs out of the college, and then left. The whole gate of the college suddenly had a heated discussion. Can Mother Yun really enter the palace? When? Mother Yun, can all of us go? The group of maidservants were all excited. They blinked their eyes and looked at Mother Yun expectantly, asking with great expectation. 3 days later, at noon, Imperial concubine Yang Yang will hold a banquet in the spring garden and invite all students of the School of Etiquette to attend the tea party to show her favor. Mother Yun's lips curled up slightly as she looked at the crowd and spoke slowly. The moment Mother Yun finished speaking, everyone cheered in surprise. Jing Yu's face turned green. She frowned and wanted to ask, Can I not go? Jing Yu, we can enter the palace. Ning Xiangyuan saw Jing Yu and immediately walked over happily. She took Jing Yu's hand and said, Oh. Jing Yu responded faintly, as if she was not interested at all. We have to enter the palace again. Shangguan Linglan also walked over and sighed impatiently. Why are you two so unhappy? Isn't it good to enter the palace? Ning Xiangyuan blinked and looked at Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan and asked. Ha ha, ha ha. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan sneered tacitly and walked into the college, leaving Ning Xiangyuan standing there with a confused look. What did they mean? Were they too happy? Their expressions were too. After a whole day of classes, Jingyu was listless. On the other hand, the others all looked as if they had been injected with stimulants. Mother Yun smiled and praised everyone. Everyone wanted to perform well at the banquet 3 days later. Chapter 62. She naturally put in a lot of effort into her studies. TSK, you're really hardworking. Jingyu sat on a stone chair with her legs crossed. She held a teacup in one hand and a snack in the other. She looked at the original resting time and saw that everyone was still diligently practicing etiquette. Boring. Shangguan Linglan yawned and supported his head with his hand, looking drowsy. Jingyu, help me see if this is the right way to walk? Ning Xiangyuan pulled Jingyu to the stone path and asked Jingyu to watch her walk. Oh. Jingyu didn't even put down the teacup and snacks in her hands. She leaned against the tree trunk and watched Ning Xiangyuan carefully walk with small, quick steps. Your hands are wrong. Jingyu took a sip of tea and said faintly, Don't lower your head. If you take big steps, hand. Jingyu corrected Ning Xiangyuan's mistake. Inexplicably, a playful thought arose in her heart. Training people turned out to be so interesting. She grinned and trained with more vigor. I'm so tired. Ning Xiangyuan supported her sore body and sat on the stone chair. Her face was full of grievance. Am I so stupid? I can't even learn such simple things. Ning Xiangyuan's eyes turned red as she spoke. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan looked at each other. Yuan, think about the two of us. You'll think that you're amazing. Jingyu couldn't find any words to comfort her. She rolled her eyes and pointed at herself and Shangguan Linglan. Ning Xiangyuan was slightly stunned. She looked at Jingyu and then at Shangguan Linglan. She suddenly laughed and said, How can you say that about yourself? Seriously? Ning Xiangyuan glared at Jingyu coquettishly and said, Yuan, why do you care so much about going to the palace? Jingyu asked as she took a sip of tea. It's an honor to be able to enter the imperial palace. If you can gain the recognition of the imperial concubine, it will make father's official career smoother. Ning Xiangyuan crossed her arms and lowered her eyes. I'm different from you. If I don't have the ability, I'll be used as a tool for marriage. Jingyu's heart trembled slightly. Looking at Ning Xiangyuan's lowered head, she suddenly understood. What happened to your father? Shangguan Linglan frowned slightly. He looked at Ning Xiangyuan and said, If you need my help, just tell me. Lanlan, you can't help me. Ning Xiangyuan bit her lip and shook her head. Taking a deep breath, she smiled and said, Let's continue training. Yeah, can you help me look again? Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. They lowered their eyes and stood up to train with Ning Xiangyuan. Laughter could be heard, dispelling some of the helplessness. In these 3 days, everyone worked even harder. Other than Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan, almost everyone was very passionate about this. Chapter 63. Imperial Concubine, you are going to the Imperial Palace. These 24 golden hairpins were specially prepared for you by the 9th Empress. Yin Xiao looked helplessly at Jingyu, who looked as if she was about to face a great enemy. I don't care. If you want to wear it, let Xiao Chen wear it himself. I won't wear it. A certain woman scolded angrily. In the end, under Jingyu's desperate resistance, Yin Xiao had no choice but to put away the hairpins. After persuading Jingyu for a long time, she finally put on 2 more golden hairpins. However, in Jingyu's opinion, this was her bottom line. Sigh. Jingyu sighed along the way. Going to the Imperial Palace, she didn't even get enough sleep. It was really annoying. The 9th Imperial Concubine has arrived. The voice of the guard driving the carriage came from outside. Jing Yu lazily yawned and stepped out of the carriage. So lively. Jing Yu looked at the dazzling lineup of people in front of her and instantly widened her eyes. Many of the young ladies were wearing their most gorgeous clothes. The bright and eye-catching colors and exquisite makeup were simply comparable to a beauty contest. This degree of eye candy is really not for show. Jing Yu clicked her tongue and sighed. She turned her head and saw Shangguan Linglan and Ning Xiangyu walking over hand in hand. Yeah, why are you dressed so simply? Ning Xiangyuan frowned and looked at Jing Yu with dissatisfaction. Jing Yu looked at her light purple exquisite palace dress and didn't feel that it was simple at all. Why aren't you wearing any jewelry? Ning Xiangyuan pulled up Jing Yu's hand and sized it up. Instantly, her frown deepened. She looked at Jing Yu seriously and asked, "Did the 9th Emperors not buy you any jewelry?" I just don't like it." Jing Yu was slightly embarrassed. "Mother Yun is here. Let's go." Shangguan Linglan was dressed in a simple dark blue outfit without any accessories. The two of them looked at each other helplessly and then looked at the carriage that came with Mother Yun. Led by Mother Yun, they got into their own carriages and headed for the gate of the Imperial Palace. Finally, they got out of the carriage at the gate of the Imperial Palace. After Mother Yun handed the invitation card to them, they were let in. Jing Yu blinked and looked at this series of complicated things, frowning slightly. Why wasn't it so troublesome the last time she entered the palace? Nonsense. Don't you know what kind of person the 9 emperors are? Who dared to stop him? Were they courting death? Jing Yu and her entourage walked through the palace gates and headed towards the happy spring garden where the imperial consort resided. The moment Jing Yu entered the palace gates, she was stupefied. She looked around as if she was looking for something. "Jing Yu, what are you looking at?" Shangguan Linglan grabbed Jing Yu's hand and asked with a frown. "I'm looking for carriages. Do we have to walk there?" Jing Yu blinked and looked at Shangguan Linglan. "Are you stupid? How can there be carriages? We have to walk there ourselves." Shangguan Linglan looked at Jing Yu indifferently and said, "What?" Jing Yu was instantly stunned. She looked at the wide road that stretched for an unknown distance and wanted to cry but had no tears. "It's such a long road. How long can you walk? It's simply asking for my life." Jing Yu was stunned. She lowered her head and walked with the entourage. However, the really terrible thing had yet to come. She didn't know if the road to the Happy Spring Garden was the main road, but there were countless carriages. The carriages of concubines, princes, and princesses kept appearing. Jing Yu knelt down until she felt that her knees were no longer hers. Chapter 64. Is there an end to this? Jing Yu lay on the cement ground, feeling dizzy. "It's the second prince's carriage, kneel down." Mother Yun looked at the carriage that was slowly approaching, waved her hand to signal the crowd to move aside, and knelt down to show respect. Jing Yu's eyes widened when she heard Mother Yun's words. "Xiao Jingran's carriage?" Jing Yu's eyes widened, and she immediately lowered her head, praying in her heart that he didn't want to see her, Xiao Jingran's car slowly drove over. Jing Yu didn't dare to move because he didn't show any intention of stopping. She watched the car pass by her from the corner of her eyes, and her eyes immediately lit up with surprise. Great, he was almost there. "Get up." Mother Yun's voice came. Jing Yu paused, lowered her head, and then stood up. Xiao Jingran's carriage also passed by. Jing Yu slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she wasn't discovered. She had offended Xiao Jingran as soon as they met. If she was discovered, Jing Yu suddenly shivered. "Stop the carriage." Just as Jing Yu was letting her imagination run wild, Xiao Jingran, who had already walked far away, suddenly raised his hand and shouted for the car to stop. This shout frightened Jing Yu, and she hurriedly lowered her head as low as she could. Meanwhile, the young ladies beside Jing Yu were all so excited that their cheeks were flushed. He didn't want to see her. Jing Yu lowered her head and murmured over and over again. "The future 9th imperial concubine, we meet again." Until a playful, cold, and murderous voice sounded above Jing Yu's head, all of Jing Yu's fantasies and concealment were shattered. Jing Yu wanted to cry but had no tears. "Look at yourself. Why did you provoke such a thing for no reason? Ha, long time no see, second prince. Jing Yu silently took a small step back and looked at Xiao Jingran with a smile. Why aren't you kneeling when you see this prince? Looks like all the etiquette lessons you've been learning have been for nothing? Xiao Jingran narrowed his phoenix eyes and sneered at Jing Yu. You're right. I didn't forget about the greeting. Jing Yu blinked and looked at Xiao Jingran seriously. You. Xiao Jingran was enraged. He flung his sleeves and stared at Jing Yu. With your looks, do you think you're fit to be the 9th imperial concubine? If this gets out, people will laugh their heads off. Xiao Jingran, why are your teeth still intact? Jing Yu remained unmoved as she blinked at Xiao Jingran in confusion. Xiao Jingran was slightly stunned. Seeing how stubborn Jing Yu was, his expression changed unpredictably. Jing Yu, how dare you call this prince by his name? Xiao Jingran glared angrily at Jing Yu as he spoke. Isn't a name used to be called? Why else would you give it a name? Jing Yu shrugged nonchalantly. The anger in Xiao Jingran's chest soared. He wanted to slap the woman in front of him to death. She had provoked him time and time again. Letting her die like this would be letting her off too easily. He should use her to torture her. As Xiao Jingran thought about it, the anger in his heart dissipated. He calmly looked at the gazes of the people around him and sneered, "It's rare for me to meet you. This prince will be merciful and send you off." What? Jing Yu was stunned. She didn't know what Xiao Jingran was talking about. Men, please invite the future 9th imperial concubine onto the carriage. Xiao Jingran waved his hand and pointed at a small board behind the carriage. Please invite the future 9th imperial concubine to sit there. Chapter 65. Jing Yu pursed her lips as she looked at the small wooden plank. 2 legs wouldn't even be enough for her to stand on, right? She still wanted to sit? Please. The 2 guards stood on each side and stared coldly at Jing Yu. Their hands were on the swords at their waists, giving off a threatening aura. Jing Yu wanted to cry. She didn't do anything. How could they treat her like this? Where was the justice? Fine, let's go. I'm not afraid of you. Jing Yu snorted coldly and walked over to the carriage. She carefully climbed up the carriage and stepped on the wooden plank with 1 foot. She instantly felt as though she was floating. Damn, this wooden plank isn't sturdy enough? Xiao Jingran looked at Jing Yu's horrified expression and a joyful smile appeared in his eyes. He walked briskly up the carriage and lay down inside. He was in a good mood as he calmly said, "Let's go. We're rushing to the Imperial Consort's place. We can't be slow." The guard driving the carriage respectfully replied, "I'm leaving first." Jing Yu raised her hand to bid farewell to Shangguan Linglan and the crowd of dumbfounded people. Unexpectedly, the carriage suddenly sped up, scaring Jing Yu so much that she lost her balance and almost fell off. "Xiao Jingren, why are you leaving so quickly? Are you rushing to reincarnate?" Jing Yu angrily scolded. However, the moment Jing Yu finished speaking, the carriage actually sped up. Jing Yu screamed continuously and Xiao Jingran, who was inside the carriage, sighed in satisfaction. He was in a good mood with a smile on his face. If the 9th emperors knew that his woman was being treated like this, how would he feel? Xiao Jingran suddenly felt a burst of joy from his heart as he thought of this. They walked all the way to Yichuan Garden. At the beginning, Jing Yu would still scream, but in the end, there was no sound at all. Xiao Jingran thought that she must have been scared silly and didn't dare to speak. Thinking of this, the smile in his eyes deepened. That's the 2nd prince's carriage, right? Yes. Who's that woman? I don't know. How dare you? Why are you lying on top of the car? That's right. The 2nd prince didn't do anything about it either. Could it be that he acquiesced to it? It's possible. Xiao Jingran was sleeping well when he suddenly heard the discussion of the palace maids and eunuchs. He frowned slightly. What did he just hear? Where is a woman? Lying on top of the car. Or did he acquiesce to it? Stop the car. Xiao Jingran's face suddenly turned cold and he shouted. Jing Yu blinked her eyes in confusion. She rubbed the demon that was knocked over and sat up, asking, "Why did you suddenly stop?" Have we arrived? Xiao Jingran strode down the car and saw Jingyu sitting on the roof of the car, blinking and looking at him. You damned woman, who allowed you to get on the roof of the car? Xiao Jingran's face was dark. Could it be that Jingyu had been riding on his head all this time? Thinking of this, Xiao Jingran's face looked as disgusted as if he had eaten a fly. You didn't say that I couldn't get on. Jingyu shrugged and said indifferently. This prince orders you to get down immediately. Xiao Jingran was furious. He glared at Jingyu as if he wanted to skin her alive. I'm not getting down. If you let me sit on top of the car, I'll get down. Otherwise, I'm going to stay here. Jingyu shamelessly sat on top of the car with the "what can you do to me" look. Xiao Jingran's face turned angry. He pointed at a guard and said, "Go up and get her down for this prince." Chapter 66. If any of you dare to touch me, I'll scream molestation. Jingyu glared at them and looked as if she would rip off her clothes if anyone touched her. The guards immediately widened their eyes and didn't dare to step forward. Jingyu was the woman of the 9 emperors. They didn't have the guts to touch her. Are you a woman or not? Xiao Jingran was completely helpless. He looked at Jingyu and his face was as black as ink. It's none of your business whether I'm a woman or not. I'm going to sit in the carriage anyway. Jingyu rolled her eyes and said seriously. Xiao Jingran turned his head and looked around. He couldn't imagine what it would be like for Jingyu to sit on the roof of the carriage and walk into the harem. He rubbed his aching eyebrows and said, I told you to sit in the carriage. You better get down. I don't believe you. Swear to the heavens that you're not lying to me. Jingyu rolled her eyes and looked at Xiao Jingran. Jingyu, don't push your luck. Xiao Jingran's face turned cold as he glared at Jingyu and said, I'm just afraid that you'll go back on your words. Jingyu spread her hands and looked as if she didn't believe Xiao Jingran. Xiao Jingran gritted his teeth. He was a prince, but his credibility was being doubted. This was an insult to him, but he had to swear. Okay. Xiao Jingran tried hard to suppress the murderous intent in his heart and said, I, Xiao Jingran, swear to the heavens that I won't make things difficult for Jingyu. Let her sit in the carriage and send her to Ichuan Garden. Will that do? Yes. It seems like there's no problem. Jingyu nodded and slowly climbed down from the roof of the carriage. She stood in front of Xiao Jingran and looked at him with a smile. You're not as scary as I thought you were. What? Xiao Jingran was stunned. Before he could ask, he saw Jingyu climb into her car with a look of surprise. She said in surprise, It's so comfortable here. The roof of the car is so uncomfortable. Xiao Jingran stood where he was and the corners of his mouth twitched. He felt that his head was particularly painful today. He bent over and entered the car. The moment he saw Jingyu sprawled on the soft couch, his face turned cold again. Can't you just sit properly? There's so much space here. You sit and I'll lie down. Xiao Jingran urged her a few times every now and then. Finally, he sent Jingyu to Ichuan Garden where Imperial Consort Nyongyong was at as fast as he could. He couldn't wait to throw Jingyu down the stairs, but who would have thought that Jingyu would refuse to go down? Are you going to get off or not? Xiao Jingran glared fiercely at Jingyu, who was hugging the couch tightly. I'm not going down. Jingyu also glared back at Xiao Jingran. The two of them were in a deadlock. Xiao Jingran wanted to rush over and pry Jingyu's hands off. Who on earth did he invite to get on the carriage? How could she be so arrogant? I don't want to be alone with that woman. She's too scary. Jingyu looked at Xiao Jingran with tears in her eyes and said, I'll go down after Mother Yun and the others arrive. Please. Xiao Jingran stared at Jingyu and sighed helplessly. Are you afraid of Imperial Consort Nyongyong? Xiao Jingran's expression changed slightly as he looked at Jingyu and asked. Afraid? Jingyu shook her head and sat up. She frowned and said, I just feel that it's too tiring to deal with this kind of woman. Alas, my life is so hard. Why did I enter the palace for no reason? Chapter 67. Ahem. Xiao Jingran had a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Seeing Jingyu sigh, he raised his eyebrows and did not speak. Why do you think there is a tea party? It's just a tea party. Why do you have to pay so much attention to it? I can almost foresee how popular it will be later. Jingyu leaned against the wall of the carriage and muttered with a frown. Why do you say that? Xiao Jingran raised his eyebrows and asked. Jingyu blinked and was about to explain when she suddenly heard the exclamation outside the carriage. She immediately lifted the curtain of the carriage and looked out. Sure enough, she saw that Mother Yun had come with a group of people. Her eyes immediately showed a look of surprise. I'm leaving first. Let's talk next time. Jingyu did not linger at all. She climbed out of the carriage and turned around to smile at Xiao Jingran. Thank you. Xiao Jingran looked in shock at Jingyu's cheerful running away. A strange feeling flashed through his eyes. He slightly pursed his lips and raised his voice to drive the carriage away. Looking at the messy bed, a trace of a smile flashed through his eyes. Perhaps even Xiao Jingran himself did not notice the smile. Jingyu followed Mother Yun and the others into Ichuan Garden. The scenery in the garden was particularly pleasing to the eye. Jingyu looked at the scenery with wide eyes and exclaimed in her heart. Jingyu had never seen these rare plants in her 2 lives. After walking for a short while, she saw Fu Ruoqing sitting in a high position in a gorgeous palace dress. She was the imperial noble consort and was greatly favored by the emperor, but he had not made her the empress. The empress was weak and had no children, but the emperor had not abolished her and made her the empress. However, the reason for this was unknown. Sit down. Fu Ruoqing was indeed a beauty in the making. Her seductive eyes seemed to be silently inviting you. However, if you looked closely at her eyes, you would see that they were calm and unwavering. There was a hint of unfathomable profoundness in them. Jingyu didn't want to be noticed by the imperial consort, so she found a seat at the end of the row and sat down. She lowered her head silently, as if she was invisible. Today, this consort has called everyone here for 2 reasons. The first reason is that the palace has offered a new batch of flower tea. The taste is quite good, so this consort has brought this tea out for everyone to try. The second reason is naturally to see how well everyone has learned the rules and etiquette of the palace. Fu Ruoqing slowly smoothed out the creases on her sleeves as she spoke. Thank you, imperial concubine, for your grace. Everyone bowed and said, Someone, serve the tea. Fu Ruoqing raised her hand slightly. Her nails, which were painted with cardamom, were exceptionally attractive. A group of maids served the flower tea. The extremely beautiful color stunned everyone who saw it. Who's going to pour tea for me? A maid wanted to pour tea for Fu Ruoqing, but Fu Ruoqing raised her hand to stop her. She raised her eyes slightly and swept her gaze over the crowd below her. The moment Fu Ruoqing finished speaking, everyone's eyes lit up with joy. All of them sat up straight, hoping to be called by the imperial consort. Jingyu, come serve this consort this tea. Jingyu was still trying to figure out what flower this flower tea was. Just as she was about to ask Ning Xiangyuan, she didn't expect that Fu Ruoqing would suddenly mention it. Me. Jingyu pointed at the tip of her nose. When she looked up, she saw Fu Ruoqing looking straight at her with a gentle smile. Jingyu felt helpless. She was already hiding behind her, so why was she still biting onto her and not letting go? Chapter 68. Come, since you are the 9th Emperor's imperial concubine, it is only right for me to guide you. Fu Ruoqing looked at Jingyu with a smile and said, Let me see how the 9th Emperors judge people. Jingyu gritted her teeth, but she had no choice but to walk up to the high seat and kneel beside Fu Ruoqing. She thought about how to pour tea that Mother Yun had taught her and carefully took the teapot with a serious face. But when she touched the teapot, she found that the teapot burned her hand. Jingyu suddenly pulled her hand back and looked up at Fu Ruoqing. What? Am I not worthy to drink the tea you pour? Fu Ruoqing looked at Jingyu with a faint smile. The cold mockery in her eyes made Jingyu grit her teeth. I don't dare. Jingyu lowered her head and took a deep breath. She raised her hand to take the teapot and endured the burning heat. She poured a cup of tea for Fu Ruoqing with trembling hands. But because her hands were shaking so much, the tea spilled on the table. It spilled. Pour it again. Fu Ruoqing looked at the spilled tea and said indifferently. The maidservant standing by her side did not blink and poured the tea that Jingyu had just poured onto the ground. She carefully wiped the table dry and looked like she wanted Jingyu to pour it again. Jingyu looked up at Fu Ruoqing's face. A cold light flashed through her eyes, but she quickly looked away and the cold smile on her lips deepened. Yes, I will pour it again. Jingyu's lips curved up and her smile made Fu Ruoqing frown. This woman was indeed a ruthless person to be able to smile in such a situation. Jingyu raised her hand to pick up the hot teapot again. The iron teapot was painted with colorful patterns. From afar, it looked no different from ordinary porcelain, but it was easy to feel when holding it in her hand. No wonder it was so hot. Jingyu poured another cup of tea for Fu Ruoqing and tried to steady her hands to prevent the tea from spilling. But when she took back the teapot, a drop of tea still spilled. Fu Ruoqing slowly moved the cup away from the side and smiled at Jingyu, saying, "It spilled again." Jingyu lowered her head. "It seems that you didn't learn well in school. Continue pouring." Fu Ruoqing had a proper smile and lightly touched the table. She looked at Jingyu and said this with a smile. Seeing this, the people below finally understood. How was she guiding Jingyu? She was clearly making things difficult for her. Usually, Jingyu poured tea quite well. Why was her hand trembling in front of Imperial Consort Nyangyang? Could it be that she was nervous? Shangguan Linglan narrowed his eyes and looked at the movements of the seats of honor. He didn't believe that Jingyu would be nervous in front of the Imperial Consort. Jingyu strangely quieted down. Fu Ruoqing calmly waited for Jingyu to make a move, but Jingyu didn't move for a long time. She slightly frowned and said, "This consort told you to pour tea. Didn't you hear?" Jingyu chuckled when she heard this. She raised her hand to pick up the teapot and slowly stood up. She looked down at the seated Fu Ruoqing with a brilliant smile and said, "I'll pour tea for Imperial Consort right now." Jingyu directly poured the tea in her hand onto Fu Ruoqing's face as she spoke. Ah! The scalding hot tea spread from Fu Ruoqing's forehead to her cheeks. In an instant, a large patch of her beautiful face was scalded red. "Imperial Consort, does this tea taste good?" Jingyu tightly held onto the scalding hot teapot. She looked at Fu Ruoqing with a pair of cold eyes and said, "Do you need me to directly feed you?" You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.